AITA for refusing to pay for daycare for my son with my ex? Posted by you/DoKale3735. I have a almost 3-year-old son with my ex. He is the best thing that has ever happened to me. Almost a year ago, I filed for divorce from my ex. We have split custody, 50-50. As child support, I pay $900 per month, plus 100% of all healthcare and education-related costs for our son. My ex was at home with our son until he was about 10 months old. At that time, she wanted to go to grad school, so we had planned to put our son in daycare. My mom, whom my siblings and I had been supporting, asked if she could watch our son rather than putting him in daycare. My ex was giddy at the idea, but I was a little hesitant because I wanted my mom to enjoy her retirement. But my mom and my ex very much wanted to do it, so I relented. Plus, my son absolutely loves every moment he gets to spend with his Mimi. My mom has continued to be the primary caretaker of our son when my ex and I are working. My ex, whom I mostly co-parent with, wants our son to go to daycare. But my ex cannot afford daycare at all, so she wants me to pay for it. I refuse. Our son still absolutely loves going to his Mimi's house. My siblings have kids that our mom looks after, and so my son gets a lot of time with his cousins. My mom still loves doing it. Plus, she was an educator and is bilingual and is doing an amazing job in that department as well. I check in with her to make sure she still wants to do it because I do not want her to be overwhelmed. Plus, the daycare here would cost about $250 to $300 per week. So, I refuse. My ex says this setup makes my family have undue influence over our son's development. If that was a concern, she has never expressed that until now. Plus, why would our son being under the influence of strangers at daycare be better? This has been a point of contention for about the last month. Am I the jerk? /relevant comments. Commenter. Not the jerk. Lots of people would kill for their kids to have daily time with grandparents and cousins in a safe environment. That sounds like a huge win for your child, not some influence problem. Commenter 2. Both parents trust Op's mom. It's free. She was an educator. She can teach the children another language. There will be socialization. It's a perfect solution. Commenter 3. You are taking Op's word that both parents trust her and think this is a good environment. There was a similar setup with my in-laws and the cousins when my kids were little, and I insisted they go to a professional, licensed, fully staffed daycare. I would not be comfortable with my toddler being cared for by one elderly woman who is also caring for several other children full-time. There could also be other factors that the mother has concerns about. For example, perhaps the kid is not well supervised, the grandmother is a religious fanatic, she spanks the kids, etc. Perhaps they badmouth the mother openly. Perhaps the cousins are violent or bad influences. There are many situations where licensed childcare is better than the free family alternative. Op's response. My ex insisted that we utilize my mom for childcare. Throughout our marriage, she continued to insist we use my mom for childcare. From 10 months old until he was 25 months, my mom was our childcare, and my ex expressed nothing but gratitude and appreciation for it. I was the only one who had expressed any type of trepidation about it at any time. When I filed for divorce and my ex was trying to get me to reconsider, for us to go to counseling, etc., she never expressed any issues with my mom being childcare. She continued to express to me and to my mom how appreciative she was for my mom providing childcare for our son. It is only after the divorce was finalized a few months back that she first expressed any type of concern. And the only concern expressed to me is undue influence. And the only basis I have been given for that concern is the amount of time our son spends with my mom. Nevertheless, she still continues to utilize my mom for childcare. In fact, she uses my mom for childcare more than I do. Update 3 months later. My ex and I got divorced earlier this year. When we were married, we bought her grandmother's house. This house was built in the 1910s and had been in my ex's family since then. It is quite large. It was, de facto, the house where my ex's family would stay when they came into town for anything. This continued into our purchase of the house and was a part of my decision to divorce her. When we bought it, we primarily used my premarital savings and inheritance. That was 5-ish years ago. When we got divorced, the court determined that the bulk of the house, 90%, belonged to me in accordance with our postnup agreement. My ex tried a number of scenarios where she would keep the house, or it would go into a trust for our kid, so it would stay in the family. The only thing I would agree to is selling the house, her buying me out, or me buying her out. We went with the latter because my ex did not have the money to buy me out. The day after Christmas, my ex's grandmother died. She had been sick for years, and the reason we bought the house is because she could no longer live on her own and desperately needed money for end-of-life care. Anyway, yesterday afternoon, my ex's cousin showed up at the house with his family. He drove into town for the funeral on Thursday. Apparently, he and his sister texted my ex and said that they would be staying at the house, insider family term for my house, and she indicated she was okay with that. I called my ex and asked her why she volunteered my house for hosting people. She apologized and said she had been running around getting things done for the funeral. But, she asked if I would be willing to host because they really do not have space for people without using the house. I told her no, and that they need to get hotels or whatever other arrangements. She said they do not have money to get everyone hotels and people are struggling financially. That there is plenty of extra room in the house. They could just be in the finished basement with their own bathroom, kitchen, entry, and exit. I told her no. She got quite upset and hung up on me. I told the cousin and his family that they cannot stay. Am I the jerk? Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Info: why did hosting family contribute to the divorce? Also, was she a stay-at-home mom? Ops response. Her family would show up whenever and however they wanted, generally would make a mess, and were generally rude or mean to me. Because of this, when we bought the house, one of my conditions was that it would be treated like our home, rather than the family house. We have a 3-year-old son. While we were married, before our son was conceived or born, she was going to school and working part-time. I paid all expenses. After our son was born, she continued to go to school and work part-time. I continued to pay all expenses. We waited until he was 10 months old before he started going full-time to my mom's house. My son was born October 2022. At that time, my ex was finishing out a second undergraduate degree with a graduation in May 2022. My ex finished the degree in May 2022. During my son's first 10 months, if my ex had class, had to work, etc., either I would be home with our son, my mom would watch him, or we would get a babysitter. Downvoted commenter 2. To me, this is a within your rights, but clear you're the jerk. There's not enough detail here to judge the details. Maybe her family is awful, and you need to keep them out of your life for your own sanity. But it's easy for me to see this from her perspective. Privileged/rich boy says he loves her and wants to be with her, but actually knocks her up, leaves her, and uses his riches to screw her poorer family out of their generational home. Then won't even let people stay there temporarily when they're mourning the death of a family member. I don't know what's important to you in life, but it sure doesn't seem like it's kindness, love, family, or helping people. Ops response. Not rich or privileged. My parents are Haitian immigrants who refuse to go into debt for anything, refuse to spend more than 70% of their take-home income, and saved or invested the rest. I grew up in a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom home in a neighborhood where most of my neighborhood friends' families were on food stamps. My ex grew up in a 4-bedroom house where she had her own room. She has family members out of state who could have easily bought the home. She has a godfather who is president of the largest local bank in our state. He could have bought the home, or lent her money to buy it from me. My ex's family, if they pooled their money, could buy the house. Instead, there was a lot of fighting among the family about the house until we bought it. I did not screw them out of the home. I would rather not have this home. My preference was that she buy me out or we sell it. She could not buy me out, and she did not want to sell it. But, after this experience, it might just be time to sell it and be done with it. Op to another commenter. I am not invited to the funeral. My son will not be at the funeral because he is too young. I did not want to buy this house, she did. So, no, I did not get my way in the marriage. Her lack of concern for what I wanted was one of the reasons we are divorced. Downvoted commenter 3. Your post said your cousin asked your wife, and she said yes, they could stay. She would never have said that if she had told you that you were not invited. Unless she asked you to look after the baby, and that is different than not being invited. Nobody is dumb enough, no matter how dumb they are, to think they would tell their ex they are not invited to her family funeral while asking them to host their family for said funeral. Nobody. So, yes, I don't believe you. Clearly, you were told you were not invited after said episode, which is logical. The biggest issue with what you did, other than being a complete jerk with zero empathy in a moment of great need, is you nuked your relationship with your son's mom's side of the family. Of course, you could be okay with that, but it will have repercussions on your relationship with your ex in the future, which will impact your son. Ops response. I am not invited. You know my ex okayed people to stay at my house without checking with me at all, right? Like, not calling or texting whatsoever. Why would you think it would be a faux pas in her mind to invite them to stay if I am not invited to the funeral? My ex does not care at all about decorum here. You would think no one is dumb enough to invite family to stay with their ex for at least 4 nights without checking with their ex, but that is what happened and why I made this post. There is nothing logical about anything my ex did here. But, you are free to believe what you want and ignore inconvenient facts. There is a lot of that going around. Downvoted commenter 4. You weren't invited to the funeral because the family thinks you're a jerk. If you had a good co-parenting relationship with your ex-wife that allowed you to support her, knowing she supports your child, the family would probably have invited you. They would have seen you as an ally in their grief. But instead, you were part of the cause of its continuation. Yes, I agree, a 3-year-old is too young. I didn't imply he should attend the funeral. I'm sure in your mind your wife did you all sorts of dirty, not making you the only important thing in her life, still talking to extended family, not wanting her grandmother's house, it's been in the family for 115 years, to leave the possession of the family, which you were welcomed into, etc. Out of curiosity, who decided to draw up a postnup? I have a guess. Op's response. I think they are jerks too. They, including my ex, hid my sister-in-law's affair from my brother-in-law, the only in-law who I got along with. That is the biggest reason I divorced my ex. But, she did do me dirty by secretly getting into about $10,000 in credit card debt while we were married. I paid it off in the divorce even though I was not required by the court to do so. I was not welcomed into her family. At all. Honestly, if we were not engaged by the time I met them, I would have never married her. I decided on the postnup. Her parents put the house on the market. My ex kept begging me to buy it, I refused. The house is nice, but the price was 4 to 5 times what you can get for a decent 2 to 3 bedroom house in our city. We would share equally in such a home, since we would be contributing close to equal amounts. Plus, the grandmother's home needed substantial work. I had enough for a down payment for the grandmother's house, but that was it. The house remained on the market. My dad died, and I got a substantial inheritance. I now had enough to pay the initial listing price and for the repairs the home needed out of pocket. It still was about 75% of my savings and inheritance. I would agree to purchase the house on 2 conditions. 1, postnup agreement, since I was giving away such a large amount of my savings and inheritance, which would not be the case if we bought the standard home, and 2, this would be treated like our home, not her family's home. She agreed to both conditions. But then continued to treat it like her family's home. After the divorce, I kept the home because she begged me to keep it, because she did not want to sell it. But, I never wanted this house. Op adds an edit to his post. 1. People seem to be assuming the house was discounted to us when we bought it. It was not. It had been on the market for a year, and the price had been decreased multiple times with no offers for the listed price at any point. We bought it for the initial price it was listed for, which was the appraisal price. 2. My personal preference was that my ex buy me out of the house. She did not have the money to do so. My next preference was to sell the house. My ex begged me to keep the house, so I agreed to do so. 3. The trust idea she had would mean putting the house in a trust with a life estate to me and the remainder to my son. This would effectively prohibit me from selling the house. I have no intentions of selling now, but I refuse to put myself in a position where I cannot sell in the future if I decide I need to do so. But I do have a trust for my son now, 3 years old, where he will inherit my assets at the time I die. Second update 3 weeks later. A number of people have asked for an update. Not much has happened until a few days ago. On Saturday, one of my ex's cousins, not the one who showed up at my door, we will call him, Dave, texted me. As you probably guessed from my original post, I do not have the best relationship with my ex's family. This was true while we were together. However, I did have a good rapport with this particular cousin. Apparently, my ex and a number of the other family members had been talking bad about me in the family group chat. Dave reached out to get my side of things, but understood if I did not want to talk. I called him and relayed much of what I said in my original post and comments to him. What I learned from my conversation with Dave is, my ex told her family, after the divorce, that she still co-owned the house with me. That I do not abide by the court's order regarding expenses for our son, and that she cannot afford a lawyer to fight me on it. I set the record straight for him on both accounts. I own 100% of the house and bought her out of her 10% share. I also pay 100% of the medical costs and child care/education costs for our son as ordered by the court. I also pay more than the court-ordered amount for child support. We talked a little bit more to catch up, and I thought nothing of it. Apparently, Dave decided to share the details of our conversation in the family group chat. On Monday, I got an angry long text from my ex about what Dave said in the group chat, and that she wanted to talk. We talked yesterday. She expressed how frustrated she is with everything. That she was, and still is, willing to do whatever it takes to make our relationship work. She said if I am not willing to try and make it work, the least I could do is work with her so she can pay me off over time for the house, put the house in a trust for our son so it stays in the family, and not badmouth her to her family. I reiterated that there are no circumstances under which I would want to be with her. The least of which is that she is actively lying about me and our divorce to her family. I also restated that I will not let her pay me off for the house because it will take her decades to even pay me back for how much money I have put into the house, even if there was no interest. I will not put it in a trust because the type of trust she wants is specifically designed to prevent me from selling the house in the future if I need to do so. I also stated that I did not ask Dave to share any of our conversation, and everything I said to him was 100% factual. I told her moving forward, I am doing no more than what I am legally obligated to do for her. I will only pay the child support amount that is legally required, and not a cent more. I will put the extra I was paying towards the money I was already setting aside for our son. If she wants to buy the house, she can at fair market value. But I will sell the house if or when I feel it is appropriate for myself and our son, regardless of what her or her family want. If or when I sell it, I will get the highest price possible, regardless of whether that person is part of my ex's family. And if her family keep being a problem about the house, it will probably be sooner rather than later. She left mad, but that is where things stand. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Good for you. This was a nice update. I hope she felt embarrassed having her lies called out in the group chat like that. Commenter 2. She won't feel shame or embarrassment, just anger at being called out publicly. Commenter 3. Wow, I can't believe she signed a postnuptial that only gave her 10%. Was it time or condition based? Did you both have separate lawyers look it over? How long were you married? So many questions. Did she work? Did all her family take Dave's version over hers? Ops response. She put up none of her own money to pay for the house. Yes, we had separate lawyers. Not time or condition based. We were married almost 6 years. She worked part-time and went to school, which I paid for. I have no idea what version the family believed.
AITA for telling my stepdaughter I don't want to be her mom anymore? Posted by you/sad_mycologist 9368. Editor's note, Op's former career was in the adult film industry. It was mentioned later in the TLDR, but I thought putting it here early would give you better context on the situation that unfolded. Hello guys. I decided to share my story here and hopefully gather some input on a situation that is causing me some real issues currently. This will be very long, so bear with me. By the way, I am using fake names in this story. I, 36F, am married to Josh, 40M. He has a daughter, Ella, 18F, who still lives at home and is in her first year of university. I have been married to Josh since Ella was 12 years old. She was on good terms with her bio mother until her mother got married and ghosted her and her father when Ella was only 11. It broke her so much that Josh decided to give it more time before Ella and I would meet. Once we got engaged, Josh finally introduced me to Ella, and surprisingly we clicked right away. We both loved anime and video games, and we would often play video games together and watch different animes together. When my husband and I finally got married, she was a junior bridesmaid, as I wanted her to be a part of the wedding. She was there for the whole process and was very excited for her father and me to be getting married. When Ella turned 14, she finally started calling me mom, and we were closer than ever. Around 17, her mother came back into her life, and her father agreed to let her see her mother every month. She still called me mom, but became more distant than she had ever been. At 18, she started calling me by my name. I will not lie, it stung, but despite all that I still treated her like my daughter and called her my daughter to others. The point of all this is to show you how close we were and how her behavior shifted. About 2 weeks ago, Ella asked me if she could borrow some of my body lotion from my room. I did not think twice about it because she has done that in the past, but this time I noticed she was taking a while to come out of my room. I called her name and she did not answer, so I checked on her. She looked panicked and just grabbed the lotion off my dresser and rushed out. I thought it was strange and assumed maybe she was stealing my lipsticks or something petty. I got a little annoyed but brushed it off. A few days later, we were hosting a dinner for New Year's Eve. My husband's parents and my sister were invited over for the countdown. During the countdown, my mother-in-law received a text on her phone and got up from her seat. She whispered into her husband's ear and showed him something on her phone. At first I was confused but not bothered, until my father-in-law called out to my husband and told him to look at his phone. He did, and his face went pale. He immediately started panicking and asked Ella to talk to him in a separate room. Before that could happen, Ella loudly announced, "Did you know that your wife is a WHRE?" My mother-in-law immediately showed me the video and started berating me in front of everyone. My sister tried to de-escalate and defend me, but my stepdaughter kept instigating by telling her grandparents that I was probably cheating on her dad. This made my mother-in-law erupt. They tried to convince my husband that I was definitely cheating, and that I was not a good fit for him. My husband already knew about the work I used to do and had my back, which only angered them more. My husband's parents left abruptly after a huge argument, during which my father-in-law called my husband a cuck. After they left, my sister left shortly after to give us time to sort things out. My husband dropped Ella off at his parents' house for the night, so he could talk to me and cool down. 2 days later, he brought Ella home and talked to her while I was out of the house. He explained that he knew everything about my past and had always been supportive of it. According to him, she realized she had made a huge mistake. She cried and apologized to him, and told him that her biological mother told her about my past. At first, she did not believe her, until she found the tapes. My husband called me and asked if I wanted to talk to her, but what he did not tell me was that he was next to her and had me on speaker. I ended up saying that I did not feel like I wanted to be near her, and that I did not want to be her mother anymore. She heard everything and started crying on the phone. She told me she was going to stay with her grandparents for a bit until things cooled down. I agreed, and that has been the arrangement up until recently. My in-laws have already started telling people my business and slandering my name because of this, which makes me even more angry at her, since she has had every opportunity to correct them but has not. I know she is only a teenager, but I cannot bring myself to go back to the way things were just because she apologized. Please, a little help would be nice. Am I being harsh? Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Not the jerk, you are not being harsh. An 18-year-old should know better and deserves the harsh consequences of sharing such personal information and videos in the manner that she did. She wanted to disrupt and cause embarrassment. Commenter 2. What I don't get about this is how this brat did this to her Op, but now that Op said she didn't want a relationship with her anymore, suddenly she is the bad guy. No, not the jerk. Your in-laws all really suck though. Commenter 3. From how it sounds, to me anyways, the mom got in the stepdaughter's head and probably told her that her dad knew nothing, which seems like the thing the stepdaughter was most upset about from what was initially said. Teenagers aren't exactly known for thinking their actions through, so I doubt she really considered that her dad could have known and taken Op's side instead of hers. It doesn't change anything about how messed up what the stepdaughter did was, and it doesn't absolve her of any responsibility. She's old enough to know better and should never have involved her grandparents in any way. However, a parent that has abandoned a kid and then turns back up tends to have a weird amount of influence, especially with teenagers, because the kid often still wants their approval or feels like it was their fault the parent left in the first place. Either way, Op is not the jerk. Op adds an edit to her post. I absolutely did not expect this many comments, so quickly. Thank you for all the nice replies and those who actually want to give their thought and genuine advice. I'm sorry if I can't reply to all the comments. I'm reading them all and trying to reply to certain comments in order to give clarifications, but I want to address some things here instead to clear up any confusion. 1. I was 20 when I created my first movie. Yes, DVDs existed back then. I'm confused on how some people think DVD adult films didn't exist in 2010. 2. Ella was able to find the video online using the info on the DVD. No, I don't know the details on how she did it. Although realistically, it shouldn't be hard to find, as I myself have searched for my content and have found it easily. Her father told me that she had screen recorded one of the videos. 3. I kept the DVDs because I was proud of my content at one point, and my husband had requested that I keep some of the ones he liked. I had never had the thought that my stepdaughter would snoop through my things, so no, I did not burn it or hide it. 4. No, this is not a karma farm or whatever some are saying. If you don't want to believe the post, you can scroll. I don't even know what karma does, but that's beside the point lol. I will not be posting links to my old movies. I am married and couldn't care less if you believe my post. 5. I do not hate my stepdaughter. I just need time to process things. I am still a human being. 6. My stepdaughter's biological mother is friends with my ex-boyfriend, and he was very involved at that point in my life. That's how she knows about my past. My husband did not tell her. She found out from a third party. 7. Josh and I were dating when Ella's mother ghosted my husband and stopped visiting Ella. Yes, she was 11. We dated for about 2 years before we got engaged. We were engaged for 1 year. During that time, my friends and I got really into Naruto and were binging the show. We were close pre-wedding. We clicked instantly is a bit of an exaggeration, but she warmed up to me pretty quickly after she and I found out about our shared interest. 8. I will try to update as soon as possible, but I probably will take some time to actually take the advice in the comments. And yes, therapy is an option. Update 5 days later. Hello guys, this might not be the update some of you were hoping for, but it is probably the one most of you expected. This is extremely long. So feel free to skip the context and get straight into the update. Before I start the update, I want to give some context about Ella's mother and my relationship with her. For the sake of the post and convenience, I will call Ella's mother Lori. Context: Lori and I are not on good terms. Back when Lori and Josh were together, I was actually friends with Josh. We never saw each other romantically at the time, and our relationship was completely platonic. After a while, Lori started to feel bothered by my friendship with Josh. Instead of talking to me directly, she started asking around about me. She eventually got information through my ex-boyfriend, and when she found out I was a former adult film actress, she flipped out. She accused me of trying to seduce her boyfriend and called me a WHRE and a homewrecker, trashing me to some of Josh's and my mutual friends. Josh eventually broke up with her after she started threatening me with violence, and they became single co-parents to Ella. And just to clarify, I never had an affair with Josh. Around 2014 or 2015, Lori started dating a new guy. Not long after, she quickly moved in with him, exposing Ella to her new boyfriend against Josh's wishes. Lori's boyfriend was extremely sketchy, and because of that, Josh constantly argued with her about Ella's safety around him. Josh would often threaten to keep Ella away from Lori, and after each threat, Josh would not hear back from Lori for weeks, despite Ella's eagerness to see her mom. Even after all the boundaries Lori crossed, Josh stayed faithful to his promise not to introduce me to Ella until we were engaged. When we finally did meet, Ella and I became close. This angered Lori, as she did not want a homewrecker in her daughter's life. She also resented the fact that Josh proposed to me after 2 years of dating, while he never proposed to her during all their years together. One day, while picking Ella up from our home, she started an argument with Josh. The argument quickly turned violent, and she smacked him in the face. Josh snapped and told her she was not allowed to come to his house again, or he would call the police. Lori left angrily and decided to leave Ella at our house instead of picking her up, as planned. When Josh tried to contact her later, he realized he was blocked everywhere. Months later, he found out that she had secretly married her sketchy boyfriend without informing anyone. Even though Josh's messages would not go through, Ella would sometimes reach out to her mother and actually get a response. Despite that, her mother never made an effort to meet with her until 2024. This is when my husband started setting up dates so that her mother could see her again. Now that the context is out of the way, here is what happened recently. 1. My husband spoke to Lori about her role in all of this. Many commenters pointed out that Ella was being influenced by her mother, which turned out to be true. Lori admitted to my husband that she told Ella I was cheating on him. She also told Ella about my past to sell the idea that I sleep around a lot. My husband was incredibly upset and called her miserable and insecure. He apparently unleashed hell on her, and she blocked him once again. 2. My stepdaughter is living at home again. She showed up at our door with a handwritten note apologizing to me for everything. Even though I was still very hurt about her New Year's stunt, I could not help but feel a bittersweet emotion that made me cry hard. In the note, she talked about all the feelings she had kept in for so long. She wrote about how she cried when she found out I was cheating on her dad. She wrote about how she mourned the end of our relationship and how upset she was for her father, going on about how she was stupid to believe her mother. She also wrote that she always loved me, but felt like, with her mother in her life, she was forced to choose. Even though she thought of me as her real mother at heart, she felt like she should side with her mom because she is blood. I asked her to explain the note to me, and together with my husband, we sat down and talked. It was extremely emotional for all of us, and even my husband started tearing up. Being able to finally cry and tell her how deeply her distance hurt me felt relieving. It went better than I imagined, and I no longer felt anger toward her. I still had some leftover resentment, and I will not pretend otherwise, but I felt good about the conversation. She stayed the night, and the next morning, things were a little awkward but tolerable. After a day of awkwardness, we had another conversation about her mother. She told me she did not want to cut her mother off completely, but she planned to distance herself for a while. I brought up family therapy, as some of you suggested, but she told me it was not something she was interested in, which I respected. We are currently on awkward but civil speaking terms. I am not sure things will ever be the same, but I am optimistic that they could improve. 3. I reached out to Josh's parents this morning with Josh beside me on the phone. They apologized in a strange, half-hearted way. They said they do not agree with my past, but they did apologize for saying I was cheating on my husband. Josh's dad also apologized to Josh for using hurtful words toward him. They never apologized for calling me degrading names, which irritated me, but for now, I will take it as a win. 4. A lot of comments were bashing Josh for how he handled the phone call. I wasn't extremely upset about it before, but after reading a lot of comments, I did kind of realize what a jerk move it was. I spoke to him about it, and he apologized. He thought it would be wise to let Ella hear the consequences of her actions, but did not expect me to say I didn't want to be her mother anymore. I forgave him, as he did what he thought was best at the time. Honestly, I had also made a huge mistake by saying I didn't want to be Ella's mother anymore. I signed up for the role when I got married to her father. So I don't and will not hold that brief moment against him, when I was guilty of a mistake as well. But honestly, that's it. I tried to give enough context so things would not be too confusing. I am not sure there will be anything else to update after this. But, thank you to everyone who made it this far, and thank you to all the people who took an interest in my life. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. So what's going to happen regarding the entire community of people your in-laws have been slandering you to? It's a bit late to take that back, and they made it public. Ops response. You're definitely right. I did not forgive them, but they are very ignorant, so I feel like there's not much I can do to improve the situation with them. Commenter 2. If your stepdaughter doesn't want to attend family therapy and isn't really willing to address how toxic and manipulative her mother is, I worry this won't end well. Please make sure you are a good advocate for yourself in this situation. Ops response. I'm trying to put myself first. But at the same time, I'm trying not to behave selfishly either. I absolutely think she should attend therapy, and I saw another comment suggesting it as a condition, which I actually do like. But still, she is an adult, and I cannot force her to go to therapy. Commenter 3. So, she can ruin your reputation and your relationship with your in-laws and her, and she can cry and think it's all so unfair that she's getting consequences, but she won't cut her mum off, she won't do family therapy, and she's back at home where she wanted to live. Your in-laws don't care to mend the bridge that she burned. You're probably emotionally burnt out, but I think your husband is at least letting his daughter off too easily. Commenter 4. I agree with this. Op is delusional saying she's mother. She's not and never will be. Stepdaughter has gotten away with trashing Op's reputation to in-laws because of some comments her real mother said. She's facing 0 consequences. My dad hates my house, and apparently expects me to take in my brother's children at some point. Posted by you/Slender Selkie. I don't know if this is the right sub for this. But in this moment, as the only blood-related woman on my father's side of the family, it feels gendered. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. A few days ago, my dad came over to my house for the first time in quite a while. I've had a lot of renovations done since he last saw the place when we first moved in. I have a nervous system condition which, while I'm very fortunate to be able to manage it in such a way that it usually doesn't impact my life most days out of any given month, can render certain simple tasks very difficult for me when I'm having a flare. It's also important, as part of managing my condition and maintaining my high level of function, to limit certain activities which can bring about a crash or a flare. My husband is also disabled. He has hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, so together we made a list of things we'd love to have as accommodations in the home we share, and we either DIY'd those things or found contractors to do them for us. I'm really happy with the results. I find that these accommodating renovations make my life a lot easier. I have fewer crashes and overall more energy. My husband is elated with how much more functional he can be after we made these changes. My father isn't a fan. He thinks it all makes the house too weird. He's worried about the resale value, not that we're planning to sell anytime soon. He had a lot of comments when he came over, in fact, it was almost all he talked about. I kept trying to gently tell him that this is just what works for us and then divert the subject, but he was getting a bit worked up, which isn't really like him in those types of situations. The plan for his visit was he'd come over, meet my foster dog that he might adopt, and take the dogs for a walk and get lunch. When I left him alone for a minute to go use the bathroom after we'd walked the dogs, I came back out and found that he'd attempted to pull one of our accommodating mechanisms out of the kitchen wall. He hadn't caused any functional damage, but he did cause aesthetic damage in that it will now need to be repainted over. I was shocked and kind of hysterical in my reaction, and I raised my voice at him when I saw what he was doing. I think I yelled, "What the F are you doing, Dad? What's your problem?" And he responded, "I just wanted to see if it was removable. Sorry. It's just too weird. It's too weird, it's just not going to work when Billy and Bobby move in with you." Billy and Bobby are my nephews. My brother's kids. I have never invited them to stay with me, let alone move in, for any amount of time, and I've never been asked to do so. Even in the event that my brother and sister-in-law passed away in some tragic manner, to my knowledge I should be very far down a very long list of people who could be asked to take those kids in before I would be asked. So, I was pretty shocked my dad would say something like that out of the blue, and with so much frustrated emotion, about Billy and Bobby moving in because there's no reason, to my knowledge, for anyone to think that would possibly be happening. I asked him to clarify repeatedly, but he just waved it off and told me to forget he said anything and he didn't want to talk about it. I pressed him and all he said was, "Well, honey, it's a massive house. You have room for 2 boys. When I asked him why he would even bring it up though, and clarified that not only did I have absolutely no desire to host my nephews for a visit let alone to move them in, he clammed up again and just said forget I ever said anything. He apologized for damaging my home, immediately transferred a larger sum than necessary to me via Zelle to fix the scratch he'd made, and then took me out to lunch as we planned prior. The rest of the day with him was pretty normal, and I guess I was just a little shocked or something because I didn't bring it up again. But now that it's been a few days, I can't get it out of my head and I'm so annoyed. First of all, my dad hasn't ever been and would never be that aggressive about any decoration or renovation in my brother's homes. He just wouldn't. And I can't help but feel that he is less respectful of my home because I'm a woman, which sucks. But more upsetting and confusing. What the F was he talking about in terms of my nephews? Like, is my family conspiring in some way to move those kids in with me? It wouldn't be the first time that my family assumed I'd take care of those kids without asking me first, but in the past it was just babysitting, and I have directly told everyone that even that is unacceptable, so I would be really shocked if my brother or sister-in-law thought that was acceptable. I guess I'm just spinning out and don't really know what to do about it. I'm stuck between asking my father about it again first or just reaching out to my brother directly. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Is there something wrong with your brother that he can't raise his own kids? Ops response. No, nothing wrong. To my knowledge, my brother isn't looking to move his kids out of his own home either. They are sometimes difficult kids, a little delayed and a lot entitled/enabled. In the past, they've leaned heavily on family for childcare since my brother has a demanding job, and my sister-in-law has a hard time being alone with her kids. When I lived with my dad, I was a big part of that equation and ended up being more responsible for those kids than I'd have agreed to, because I wasn't in control of telling them if they could bring the kids over, as it was my father's house. But even when I still lived with my dad, I was able to establish some boundaries and assert that I wouldn't agree to care for them on demand, and that was generally respected after I put my foot down a few times. Commenter 2. I'd definitely try to get more info from your dad, but failing that, it wouldn't be bad to talk to your brother? It seems like a really out-of-pocket thing to say unless he has some serious information you don't. Ops response. It's incredibly out of pocket. Not only do I not want those kids to live with me, but I also would assume that my brother wouldn't want his kids to live with me. There are a million reasons why, but chiefly it wouldn't be a good idea safety-wise for those kids. I've been dealing with a stalker for years who has already threatened me that she would harm my nephews, at which point I distanced myself from Billy and Bobby, stopped picking them up from school, etc., and the threats directed at them stopped. Currently, I'm working on taking legal action, but nothing is set in stone, and even the idea of those kids, who are difficult but who I also love very much, being in my home makes me worried that they would be directly targeted or that there would be some escalation. I actually can't imagine that my family would think it's a good idea to move those kids in with me. Like, I can't imagine circumstances where that would seem appropriate. Up to another commenter. It's okay. She's someone I used to be friends with, and honestly, it's my bad because I hung in there even when I realized she was becoming mentally unstable. She became fixated on my husband when he and I began dating, and I became the enemy in her eyes. Commenter 2. Yeah, particularly given that information, but even without it, it's hard to imagine your brother or sister-in-law would want or expect you to take in their kids short of some kind of serious health or relationship emergency. And even then, that wouldn't be something for your dad to be concerned about, unless he's a particularly worrying person. Ops response. Even if there's an emergency, I simply cannot be the first person on their list to take those kids in. I'm the only younger female blood relative, I guess, but there are so many other relatives and family friends who need to come before me on that list. My brother and sister-in-law have a massive village, so I'm talking dozens. It's baffling to me that it would come down to me to take those kids in under any circumstances. Up to another commenter. My dad has normalized triangulation a bit too much in this family, for my comfort. Commenter 3. Triangulation? Ops response. Dad will say, your brother is really upset that you said you can't go to his birthday dinner. He even said he'll move it up an hour just so you can come, and I know that you'd still need to move your schedule around even if it's an hour earlier, but he really wants to make it easier for you because he really wants you there. When my brother said neither of those things, then he'll tell my brother, your sister is heartbroken that she can't make it to your party, and she doesn't want to say anything, but she's hurt that you aren't having it an hour earlier so she can make it. When I said neither of those things, and he does all this because he wants the whole family at my brother's party, and doesn't like the idea of the whole family not being present. So my brother moves his party up an hour because he thinks that's what I said I wanted. I move my schedule around to go to his party because that's what I think he wanted. And both of us feel kind of weird and resentful and strange, and neither of us find out that we got played until we casually talk about the incident 10 years later. Up to another commenter. He's in his 70s, but he's still sharp enough to be working. I asked my other brother, nebulously, without mentioning the reason why, who works with my dad every day, if he'd noticed any decline, and he said Dad seems sharp as ever in their work environment. It's pretty mentally demanding work, so I think it would be evident there. I'll also note, though, my dad rejected an OCD diagnosis when he was in therapy after my parents' divorce. So he's not without any history of mental illness. Not sure if that would cause this behavior, though. Update 1 day later. I talked to my brother on the phone about the situation, and he expressed that he had absolutely no idea why our father would imply that Billy and Bobby would need to move in with me at any point. He seemed genuinely surprised and had no clue what the hell Dad was talking about. He claims to have absolutely never expressed anything like that to our dad. I believe him. I asked him if there was any possible reason at all that Dad would think that I'd need to take in my nephews. Like, is there some problem Dad thinks he is pre-solving without consulting either of us? Is there an illness or impending divorce or anything I don't know about? My brother assured me that there's nothing like that going on and that, as I assumed, I, of course, wouldn't even be near the top of the list of permanent caregivers even if something was going on. He knows I run 2 businesses out of my house and also just am not up for taking his kids in unless I'm the absolute last safe resort. Both of us are in agreement, as is our other oldest brother, that Dad generally doesn't seem to have any other signs that we've noticed of declining cognitive function, like at all. But since this was such a strange outburst, we're still concerned that this is just the earliest sign. My brother, Billy and Bobby's dad, is going to talk to our dad about it ASAP and see what he says or what explanation he can give. Then we'll go from there. The issue that we're both aware of is that my dad, while a loving father and good man to many, is a bit of a liar and a lot of a manipulator. He has a lot of signs of OCD and gets fixated on things, then tries to manipulate to get his way with his fixation. He means well, but he has been known to be full of crap and have his own strange agendas that don't have much to do with anyone else's wants or needs. So unfortunately, my brother and my brother has volunteered to go first Lowell, are going to have to confront him by essentially saying, Dad, it's really important that you're honest about whether you are confused or intentionally lying, triangulating, manipulating, because that's the difference between us freaking out about your health versus us just understanding that sometimes you lie to push your agenda, but your brain is fine. Thank you to everyone who gave me feedback here. You've all been so sweet and supportive except that one guy who for some reason was dead convinced that I didn't pay for my own home and commented several times and DM'd me about it. I did pay for my home, and it's solely in my name. You weirdo. I'll keep y'all updated on what my brother and I figure out going forward. Second update 8 months later. I know this was forever ago, but life has been lifing pretty hard since then. The original post and first update, which I made at the top of the original, are in my post history. First of all, I just want to thank everyone for your concern and overall support. This sub is full of such lovely and helpful people. So many of you left tremendously helpful comments and sent me such kind messages as well. So I guess I'll start by saying that my dad doesn't have dementia or Alzheimer's or anything like that. If anything, he is perhaps experiencing a very slight cognitive decline due to age, but only insofar as his typical lifelong nonsense becoming a little more pronounced, and he's not really as slick as he thinks he is or as good at manipulating as he's used to being. Basically, he's used to being able to get away with a lot more manipulation of his kids than he's able to get away with now. I don't even think the onus for this particular episode of his is directly an age thing at all, though. I think it's a situational thing. After I talked to my dad multiple times, conferred with my brothers after they talked to my dad multiple times, and after we basically had to tell our father, hey, if you're not totally upfront about what's going on, we have to assume that you need to see a doctor, and we're not just going to drop this like we usually drop uncomfortable things in this family. I think I have figured out what was up. Ever since I moved out of my father's house, leaving an empty bedroom and office space in a house that already had a designated bedroom for the kids because they had a lot of sleepovers there, my sister-in-law has been obsessively pushing the idea that my nephews should start living summers and school breaks at my dad's house. I knew she'd brought this up a few times, but I didn't know how adamant she was being because this push entirely took place after I had moved. My dad doesn't live far from my brother and sister-in-law's place, 15 minutes away, so it's not like they'd be having some special summer experience in a new location. I think she just wants them out of her house for the summer, lol. My nephews love staying at Grandpa's because my dad has never been a real caregiver, not even when we were kids, so there are literally no rules, no bedtimes, no limit on sweets, no parental controls on the TV, no limit on screen time, no one checking if they brush their teeth or making them shower or do chores or change their clothes, zero supervision over them making messes or doing dumb crap, etc. So of course, when their mom asked them, do you want to spend the summer at Grandpa's? Do you want to go ask Grandpa if he'll let you stay the summer with him? They went feral over the idea, and my dad was immediately put in the position of either agreeing or disappointing his 2 grandkids and saying no. My dad hates saying no to family outright, because he never wants family to say no to him at all. So he agreed, of course. My dad agreed to this last summer, but even with the help of a daily babysitter, who apparently quit halfway through, and I assume it's either because my dad made her uncomfortable, which is a whole different kettle of fish, or because those kids are super entitled, and even though the kids are getting more and more independent, it was torturous and exhausting for him. He never wanted to do that again. But, and my dad didn't say this is me applying what I know about him in general, my father is addicted to being the hero of the family. He needs us all to need him, and he needs us all to think he's great. Plus he has a massive ego about defying the idea of aging and being ultra-energetic and healthy, etc., and not an old man. He could not bring himself to admit that he doesn't have the energy for those kids, and he didn't want to say no because he doesn't want to normalize anyone saying no to anyone in this family. My father thrives on no one being allowed to have boundaries or say no, but it's now also become a prison he's built himself into. So, he was planning to pawn the kids off on me next summer. He was going to agree to take them and then bring them to my house and, in his words, ease into a smooth transition from his house to mine. From the sounds of it, and also just knowing my dad, I assume he was going to beg me to take the kids for a single day, drop them off with overnight bags and say, "Didn't you say they could sleep over?" Then make up a ton of excuses as to why they needed to stay at my house for longer and longer until he ran out the summer. Personally, I know this wouldn't have worked. I'd literally be dropping the kids off at their own damn house or calling the cops within 24 hours. But I don't think my dad understands just how badly his plan would have panned out because I used to be a massive doormat. I think he truly believes he could manipulate the situation, and me, into working out in his favor. He apparently asked my sister-in-law already if it was okay and she said yes, but she never even asked me about it or brought it up the whole time we were all wondering what my dad was on about. She only confirmed this after my dad finally admitted to his scheme. This is wild because she had just stood there and said nothing about it while my brothers and I were trying to figure out if our dad was insane. And to be honest, I think my sister-in-law knew the whole time that my dad was going to fully pawn her kids onto me and she didn't want to say anything and risk having to have her children, living in her own house all year. I truly don't know what she thought was about to happen, and when I asked her, "So, you didn't think you should even confirm this with me?" She swore that she remembered talking to me about it, which... No, girl. You did not. I would never agree to that. My brother is fairly livid with his wife. He generally hates how reliant she is on outside help to raise the kids when he's already such an involved dad, and they literally have multiple forms of paid childcare. And we are all becoming increasingly less patient with my father's triangulation BS. Like, I'm in my 30s, my older brothers are both pushing 50, and it's insane that he's still scheming and claiming it's all in the name of what's best for the family, because we all have our own families now, but he acts like we are bickering children who he is having to manage in order to keep the family together. Extra insane because my brothers and I were not children at the same time, when really he's just obsessively trying to maintain his preferred status quo in a reality where it makes less and less sense to maintain. This was also foolish and I'm truly annoyed. Like I said, I've had a lot going before and since his initial outburst. A lot of good things that needed my attention and some really hard things too. And instead of getting to be more fully present in what was going on in my own life, I had my focus split and pulled away by worrying that my father was potentially suffering from neurological issues and refusing to be seen for it. My brothers and I all just wasted so much time on this, all for this to be some stupid BS about his pride and him applying his own preferences to our lives again. Anyway, thank you again to everyone who gave me good insight and advice. I really appreciate y'all being here when I was spinning out about it. /relevant comments. Commenter. I was actually wondering about you earlier this week. God, just reading this was infuriating. I'm sorry you're dealing with it. Anyway, enjoy having your house to yourself. Ops response. Thank you. We are. My sister-in-law's apology involved offering to bring the kids over for a fun day at my house, and I told her actions have caused me to not want the kids over for the foreseeable future. She's fuming. Up to another commenter. When I was in my early 20s and my brother was in his mid-40s, our dad accidentally triangulated a wedge between us that took years to resolve, just because he wanted my brother to work more and he wanted me to pick my brother's kids up from school every day to accomplish that. He could have just come out and said to both of us, "I want you to get more work done, and I want you to pick his kids up so he doesn't have to break midday to do that," but instead he created this convoluted and complicated game of fake telephone that ended in my brother and me both absolutely hating the other and feeling massively insulted. We didn't realize this until years later. Up to another commenter. My brother is an extremely active father, actually, and they employ daily childcare. It's just that my sister-in-law is on a constant mission to get those kids away from her. She acts like spending one whopping whole week with her kids, still with their childcare, mind you, without being able to drop them off with someone else will literally kill her. I understand my brother's frustration because every time he turns around, his wife has made another plan to shuttle their kids off and away from them for as long as possible. If there's a snow forecast, she will purposefully rush them over to families' houses so they can get snowed in there. During COVID, she desperately tried to get them quarantined with her parents in another state, like when there was talk of a lockdown. She was rushing, driving all day and overnight to get them there and get back home so that they'd be stuck with her mom and dad during the lockdown. She flat out refuses to be alone with her children and is constantly angling to send them elsewhere, away from her. Commenter 2. Wow, your sister-in-law sucks. A couple weeks in the summer is one thing, but the whole summer with no structure, grandpa is just setting herself up for failure as a parent. Kids need structure and healthy food to have the best chances at growing up to their full potential. Ops response. Yeah, it's never been my place, obviously, but I have always been astonished by how much she pushes for her kids to stay with my dad because he has essentially systematically instilled his own disordered eating. My dad is a severely obese junk food addict and binger, onto my nephews. They were flagged as being extremely overweight at 9, despite being fairly active kids, and it's only gotten worse since. They sneak and hide food, they run up their lunch debt at school. It's not a financial issue for my brother or sister-in-law, but it's just that the kids are buying loads of snacks, and they binge until they get sick. I don't know what the hell she's thinking by prioritizing having her kids out of her house over having them home and trying to turn their relationship with food around. My brother and I both had struggles with serious restrictive eating disorders because of how warped of a relationship with food our dad gave us. My brother still, at almost 50, struggles with relapsing into bulimia. That has landed us both in the hospital multiple times. He and I were talking about it, and he was telling me that it actually makes him feel so worried and upset and awful when they leave the kids with my dad because he feels like he's letting them down. But my sister-in-law sets these things up behind his back and then throws fits and freaks out and vacillates between not speaking to him and nonstop arguing or threatening to just disappear into the night if he doesn't agree to send the kids to my dad's. I guess this last incident was kind of eye-opening, because it really was bizarre that she just stood there like a dead fish for months while my brothers and I were frantic that my dad had a brain tumor or something. Up to another commenter. Absolutely. I do have real sympathy for her. The moment they told me they were pregnant, I was immediately thinking, oh my god, she's not a fit mother. I know that sounds horrible, but she is truly the most fragile and anxious person I've ever met. She shuts down, and I mean shuts down, over the smallest things, stuff that wouldn't break most people's stride, to the point of paralysis. She always wanted one child, for it to be a girl, and for the girl to be a quiet and calm kid like she and my brother were, and like all my siblings and I were, to be honest, so it wasn't a bad bet. Instead, she got pregnant with twin boys who ended up having severe hyperactivity and focus problems. This was the worst-case scenario for her. I really wish they'd just done in vitro fertilization so she could have had her one girl. I don't think she'd be so frantic to pawn a daughter off all the time. Up to another commenter. I do have serious sympathy for my nephews. They've been spoiled to such a damaging degree, and now they're getting bullied and socially punished at school for being entitled, bratty crybabies. It sucked to literally watch my family. My sister-in-law is not the only one to blame here, either insist upon or passively endorse the consistent decision to make them into worse and worse little people. My dad is so astonished at how horrible their behavior is, and he keeps exclaiming about it coming out of nowhere when I feel like I've been watching a slow-motion train crash for years. My mom wants nothing to do with me because I picked my dad during the divorce. Posted by u/tame_armadillo5607. I know it sounds bad, I have a lot of regrets, but everything was really hard after my 19F parents got divorced when I was 13. I had a happy childhood before then, and was closest with my mom. The divorce was harder on me than my older sister Penny, 21F, who kind of took it in stride. My mom moved out and into an apartment, and was just generally incredibly depressed. She drank a lot, and it was just a mess. We were 50-50, but the schedule they came up with was annoying because I'd have to switch houses like every 2 to 3 days, and I went to a private school, so I had uniforms, and I was always getting in trouble for leaving them at the other house or not having things. Then Mom moved 45 minutes away from my school. They gave my sister a car so that she would drive me to school, but I played sports and she didn't want to hang around for me after school. So I was always waiting around and would sometimes just end up at my dad's anyways. So I asked if I could stay with Dad on weekdays and Mom on weekends. My dad didn't want to only have me for school days, so I was with him one weekend and her the other 3. I thought it was awesome, but I could tell my mom seemed less, I don't know, fond of me. My sister was supposed to drive me, but again with sports, Some weekends I'd call my mom to pick me up and she wouldn't be able to, and I was spending less time over there. I know she and Penny got much closer. Penny only came over to my dad's every other weekend by then, too. We got into a massive fight when I was a sophomore because I had a big, semifinals for state and I was on varsity game and she didn't go because she was taking Penny prom dress shopping. I was dating a junior and going too, so I asked if we could all go another day, and she told me to ask my dad to take me. She had gotten me into sports and always went to my games, and I played horrible because I was so anxious about whether or not she'd come. She didn't. I felt like she'd forgotten about me and moved on, so I stopped going over to her house. We'd call and see each other on holidays and stuff, but I was hurt and she never apologized. I still obviously love her, and we get along good when we see each other. It's just not often. Lately I've been feeling really down. I lost a friend, and my dad's new girlfriend moved in, and I'm pretty sure she wants me to move out. Which is whatever, I'll figure it out, but it's more like she'll get mad if I don't clean, but when I do, she gets snippy and is like, "You're not your dad's wife." Now Mom is doing good. She got remarried about a year ago, and he has 2 kids who are like 10 and 12, Jake and Emma. They're all nice, but I obviously don't know them well. But anyways, before Christmas, my mom asked me if I would give one of my old American Girl dolls to Emma. It's not like an heirloom or anything, but it was my cousin's, and honestly, I don't know Emma very well. So I said no. It's not like they don't have money, and they still sell the dolls. I wasn't mean or anything, I just said I didn't want to. But I kept asking her about Christmas and when to be where, and she never really told me. I normally spend Christmas Eve with her, and she never told me what was going on. I texted her that day and asked when I could give her her gift, and she said she'd reach back out after the holidays. That hurt in a way I can't explain because she never, wouldn't take my calls or see me before. I guessed it was probably about the stupid doll and probably should have given her space, but I still texted her Happy New Year. Penny got super mad and drove out and yelled at me. She said that I had to stop bothering Mom when I broke her heart by picking Dad. I told her that wasn't true, and she told me they got divorced because Dad had an affair and that I was an idiot if I hadn't figured that out. Nobody had ever told me that, and Dad hadn't dated anyone that I knew about until recently. I got upset and told her to leave and didn't even give her my mom's present. I was so upset. I haven't told my dad yet, but I've been really upset about it. I feel like I never meant to hurt her, but I feel really bad. I don't know if I should reach out to her or if I should just leave well enough alone, like Penny told me to. I'm pretty sure she's moved on from me. She's posted pictures of her and her husband's kids with Penny, and I don't think she has space in her life for me anymore, and it's all my fault. /relevant comments. Commenter. Your mom is the one responsible for communicating things. If she's feeling resentful, it should be a conversation. But the fact she basically just stopped showing up suggests you couldn't win in this scenario anyway. She was the one with the burden to stay involved. You were a kid who needed your mom's presence and didn't get it. Op's response. I mean, I know I wasn't perfect. One Mother's Day, I had just gotten over COVID and was still super tired, and told her I didn't think I was up for a 1.5-hour round trip. She basically stopped calling after that, and I wish I had just sucked it up and gone. Commenter 2. Kid, and I say that because you were younger than my kids, you were a baby. You were a child, and your parents were divorcing. You were going through one of the most emotionally damaging events possible, and you didn't get support. Your mom dropped the ball here, and it wasn't your fault. You were a baby. 13 is a baby, 16 is a baby, hell I'll call 19 a baby. Your parents wanted you, the non-driving baby, to deal with their house choices? Who the F does that to a baby? Op's response. I mean, I know I'm an adult now. My mom used to get fake mad when I'd say I was whatever age, and say that I'd always be her baby, but I know that's not true, ha ha ha. And my therapist says I need to start seeing things from other people's point of view now that I'm older. Commenter 3. Han, I don't think your therapist means for you to do what you're doing, which is taking responsibility for the actions of the adults around you. Yeah, your mom was depressed, angry, and probably trying to pick up the pieces of her life. She was also a long commute from your school and struggling to stay involved in your life. If I moved almost an hour away from my son's school, you bet your ass he'd be staying at his dad's during the week. I'm going to make a child commute an hour and a half each day? None of these are your fault, and there is nothing healthy that you could have done to assist her. Picking her in the divorce isn't a reasonable ask, even if it's a very human one on her part. Maybe consider having a conversation with her and lay this out. Receive what she has to say with an open mind. But do not take responsibility for her parenting in addition to yourself. She's the one with the supposedly fully developed limbic system and prefrontal cortex. Ops response. I can try that if she ever talks to me again. Commenter 4. You are the child, she is the adult. She made choices that gave you fewer choices, and those choices she left you were ones she was unhappy with. She is treating your relationship a bit like her drinking problem. She is not responsible, nothing is her fault, she'll do what feels good in the moment even if it's destructive, and she'll never communicate or work through her feelings like an adult. By the way, are you able to set a dad/daughter activity during which you can talk about all this? You haven't gotten good modeling for communication, but it's something to work on learning. Ops response. I haven't talked to my dad about all of this yet. If what Penny said is true, then I don't know what to do. My dad has always been there for me since the divorce, and if it's true, I don't know how to get past it. Up to another commenter. I haven't told my dad about his girlfriend. I know I'll be moving out soon, and I just wanted him to be happy. I haven't asked him about the affair because I'm kind of afraid of what the answer will be. He's been my rock for years, and I don't know what I would do without him. He was there for all my high school milestones. I invited my mom, but she didn't come, and when I had my heart broken. I do feel like my mom replaced me with my stepsister. Both of my step-siblings were invited to the wedding, it was small, they eloped, and Emma was a bridesmaid, and I wasn't even there. I still had classes that week, but I don't know if I would have been invited if I hadn't. Commenter 5. You know, even if you did have an affair, being mad at him will just isolate you even more. I would ask for extra support, love, and tolerance from him right now. And definitely make sure he knows what you're going through with your mom's and Penny's rejection of you and how sick it is of them to want to make you pick either parent. What an awful position they're putting you in. You need at least one parent in your corner. Ops response. You're right. I'll talk to him about that and his girlfriend tonight. Commenter 6. You can be a good parent and a bad spouse, and vice versa. Your dad cheating on your mom doesn't excuse her from attending your sporting events and giving you adequate transportation so you can spend time with her. You are not responsible to bend over backwards so their custody arrangements work. They made a crappy plan, where their children had to do 100% of the work. And it failed. Your mom could have called your dad to find a better arrangement, but she didn't. I failed to see what you did wrong in all this. You did what was best for you with the info you had. Ops response. Him cheating on her does make more sense, which is why she wouldn't do things like go to games or graduation, etc., where he'd be. I just thought she was mad at me. Commenter 7. Yikes, I mentioned this in another comment, but I really think it's the case. Your mom hates your dad more than she loves you. She can't stomach the discomfort of being in his presence for an event celebrating you. She could be on the opposite side of the room. Edit, I also find it a bit weird that she's complaining about you choosing dad while also choosing not to be there for important events you are having. Yet it was your father who was willing to take time to be there for you. He was willing to make sacrifices your mother chose not to. Edit 2, when your dad wasn't going to see you on weekends, he spoke up about how he wanted to be able to spend more time on the weekend with you. Your mother didn't do anything to compromise or make your life better. The best she did seems to be offload her responsibility onto your sister by getting her a car. Ops response. Penny said she wasn't there for certain things because it was too painful to be around my father. Commenter 7. Yeah, she couldn't get over her personal discomfort to support her own daughter. It's not your responsibility to manage your mother's comfort. It's her responsibility to be there for you. She is acting selfish as F. According to her actions, her comfort is more important than you are. She couldn't be happy for you as long as your father exists. That's really effed up. Edit, your mother is angry at your father for betraying her trust. Your mother has turned her back on you. She's doing to you a similar thing your father did to her in cheating, betraying the trust you put in them. Commenter 8. Why wasn't your sister reprimanded for not picking you up? Neither parent said anything? Look. I get it. Your mom failed you. But in my eyes, so did your dad. There is a lot of blame that he carries. Why didn't he make your sister wait for you? Or go back for you? Just like your mom. I can give you my family as an example. My mother was married to a man that was physically abusive, and he also cheated on her. When they got a divorce, we moved a county over. When it was my brother's time for custody with his father, sometimes my mom would drop him off to him. She went out of her way to ensure that my brother had a connection with his father. She knew how important that relationship was, and because she wanted what was best for my brother, she sacrificed and put him first. My mother's commitment was to her child and ensuring that she helped to cultivate that relationship because she knew how important dads are for kids. Your dad would pick you up from school, cause your designated driver, your sister, would leave you. And instead of taking you to your mom's, as it was her time with you, he took you back to his house. You genuinely don't see how he could have helped get your relationship back on track with your mom? No intervention? No trying to bridge the gap? We all agree that your mom sucks, but your dad is also an adult and could have done more to protect his daughter. He knew you needed your mommy. You are the victim here. Everyone owes you an apology. Sister included. Ops response. Yes, my dad stopped paying for her gas after she kept doing it, and my mom just started paying for the gas, she was already paying insurance. And Penny stopped coming to dad's, and my mom obviously didn't punish her at her house. I disagree about my dad. I don't think I would want to drop everything and drive for an hour and a half just because my older daughter didn't want to wait around, and my ex didn't feel like making the same trip. Then again, I would never make my kid be around a physically abusive person, even if they were their parent. My dad would offer to meet her halfway, but she never wanted to see him, and I don't think it's fair that he had to do all of that just so that she could see me when she could have driven, too. She's the one who decided to move so far away. Plus, it's not like she or Penny are doing anything to help fix that relationship, so I don't know why it has to all be on me and my dad. Like, all my friends' moms would die to hang out with their kid more, and that hurts. They'd drive hours, and my mom wouldn't drive an hour and a half. I don't know how that's on my dad. Update 2 weeks later. I talked to my parents. It wasn't fun. I confronted my dad about what my sister told me, and he admitted it was true. It was hard for me to hear because I had a boyfriend cheat on me a few months back, and my dad had been there for me. I also told him about what his girlfriend had been saying. He was upset about it and said he'd take care of it and talk to her. It seems like she's been nicer, but I don't know. I don't really trust her. My dad and I are okay, though. I'm still upset about what he did, but he could still be a good dad and not a good husband? It's kind of complicated. Like maybe his girlfriend deserves to be with him. That's mean. Unfortunately, stuff with my mom has been bad. We used to always go to the ballet at Christmas, it was our thing together. But a few years ago after the divorce, she said she didn't want to that year and just never asked me to go again. I asked a few times, but she always said she couldn't do it. But last week she made a post with her, Penny, and Emma, her stepdaughter that she wanted me to give the doll to. And obviously they were at the ballet. When I saw Penny the next day, I feel like she wanted me to ask about it, but I didn't. She asked me if I wanted to go in on Mom's birthday present, it's in a few weeks. I asked if I was going to be invited to her party or dinner, and she said that shouldn't matter, so I told her I'm not getting Mom anything for stuff I'm not invited to. I got her a Christmas present, and she didn't invite me over. I had gotten her a wedding present, and I wasn't invited. Penny told me they didn't want to invite me to the wedding because Mom didn't want me reporting anything back to my dad, so she could enjoy the wedding. She eloped in the Caribbean. That made me really upset, so I called my mom later and asked if it was true. She was annoyed, I could tell, and told me she'd meet me to talk, but I had to promise I'd listen. So I drove all the way out to talk to her, and she was going on about boundaries and how if I wanted her in my life, I had to respect them. And her boundaries are like I'd need to give her 3 days' notice before seeing her and not ask the day of or before. And I'd have to invite Emma to anything we did and put effort into being a big sister to her, and I was so over it. I asked her again if the wedding thing was true, and she said that she just wanted to enjoy her wedding after everything. I never have ever gossiped with my parents about the other. Even when I knew they wanted to, I never did. And even if I did, my own mom cared more about her ex finding out about her wedding than having me there. I kind of lost it at that. I know it was wrong, but I couldn't help it. I've just been keeping things inside for so long and trying to get her to love me again, and it's pointless. She doesn't want me around, and I don't want to be around anyone that doesn't want me there. So I told her that, and I told her that I had no idea that Dad had an affair until Penny told me, but at this point I didn't blame him. She could have fun with my replacement, but it won't ever be the same because she's not her mom. She had a mom, and it's not her, and she'll always pick her mom over her. My friends' moms go out of their way to see their daughters, and I have to beg mine for scraps. I wish I had told her where to shove her boundaries, but I didn't have the juice to do that, haha. But I did tell her to forget that she ever had me and left. She called me a bunch, but I googled it, and since I'm 19, I'm allowed to block her number. So Penny and her husband have been calling and texting me, so I told them she needs to respect my boundaries. I think I'll be okay, but it's been hard. I have a therapist who helps me sometimes, but I think cutting my mom out will be good long term. I don't want to end up like her, and if Penny wants to cut me off for that, that's fine. My friends and I decided to get an apartment starting this summer. I think it'll be good for everyone. My dad was sad when I told him, but I need to start my life. Like I know it's kind of BS because he'll be paying my rent, but we promised we'd get dinner at least twice a week. I know he did something bad, but I kinda meant what I said about not blaming him. And at least he's always been there for me, unlike her. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. I think your mom misdirected a lot of anger and resentment onto you that she never should have. To me, it sounds like she desperately needed some therapy. She kind of made her own bed when she shut you out of Christmas and her wedding. And it seems a lot of the things she did, prom dress shopping, not going to your semifinal, moving 45 minutes away, in the early years after the divorce were spiteful things aimed at you when she was mad at your dad. How were you supposed to know he cheated? I think if your dad's girlfriend is now at least respectful and not weirdly snippy with you, that's pretty good. Let him know if that changes, though. I think he does really love and care about you. I hope you enjoy and learn a lot of stuff getting into the independent life, sharing an apartment with your friends. It will be exciting to figure out where you want to go from here. Ops response. Honestly, at this point, I'm glad I didn't know he cheated. It definitely would have affected how I treated him. But at this point, I don't care, and like I said, I don't blame him for it. I would hate being married to my mom. Downloaded commenter 2. I don't think you should have totally cut off communication with your mother. Perhaps what you told her in your fury might have gotten to her. If you had heard her out, then you could have made the decision whether to go no contact or not. Ops response. I did listen to her. She wants me to put in all the effort, treat her with kid gloves, understand her feelings and emotions, and take care of her, while I am apparently just a piece of crap daughter who does not deserve to see my own mom whenever I want to. I don't accept that. It's her fault. She's dead to me. Commenter 3. What happened between your parents is between them and should not impact your relationship with your dad. He has proved time and again that he is a good parent. Your mother has proved time and again that she is a crap mom. Ice her out and match her energy, which is to treat you like you don't exist. I cannot believe she did not invite you to her wedding. That is ridiculous. Ops response. It was so hurtful. I knew they went on vacations without me and had gotten over that, but when I saw the pictures and realized they got married, I cried for like 2 days straight. I couldn't believe she had some girl who has a mom of her own there and not me. She definitely won't be invited to my wedding and will never meet my children when I have them. I don't care if she gets sick and asks to see me, she'll never see or talk to me again for the rest of her life. It's her own fault, and I can't feel bad about it. Up to another commenter. Well, she betrayed me, so I don't care what my dad did to her. I hope her new husband cheats on her, and everyone else she's ever with does too. Commenter 4. Your mom sounds very immature. Your dad sounds like he ruined the marriage, and it's fine for your mom to resent him, and it's fine for her to feel like you should be understanding of the situation as much as a child can be. However, resenting you and treating you poorly without understanding what this is like for you is BS, and she should talk to a therapist about it, possibly with you. Ops response. No, my views on all of this have changed drastically. I mentioned in my post that I've been cheated on. I'm sure it's different when you're married with kids, but it didn't make me completely fall apart, and it sure as hell didn't make me neglect my dog, so my mom is pathetic for letting it destroy our relationship. She's just a coward who wants to be coddled. She needs to grow up, and stop calling and trying to apologize to me, and understand that I've given her enough chances over the years to step up or even try. If she wants to replace me with some kid she met a few years ago that all of her family thinks is bratty and annoying, she can be my guest. Because I've shut that door, and none of her groveling or guilting are going to work on me this time. Maybe in a few years I'll change my mind and let her try to be back in my life, but the realization that all of this was over cheating has put it in perspective for me. She simply chose herself and her feelings over her job of being a mom. I'm not wasting my time doing therapy with her when there's nothing wrong with me. I have a therapist I see occasionally when I need it. She's welcome to get her own, but I don't care anymore. Editor's note. Ops' last post was made on January 16, 2026, and she has since deleted her account. AITA for admitting to my daughter that I hate what she changed her name to? Posted by you/that name hurts me. I, 39F, was born in Canada but was taken to India weeks after I turned 18 and was married by my parents to my cousin, who I barely knew. I was treated well by my husband, he was polite, paid for school there, took me on dates, and never forced me to do anything, and his love is why we reconnected when he came to Canada. But his mother hated me and was always yelling, calling me useless, demeaning me, and even vowing to get me divorced so my husband could marry my sister. When I got pregnant, I had to go. I couldn't subject my child to that witch. Our maid helped me return to Canada, and I named my daughter Zahira, fake name, after her. I have a good life, a great job, amazing children, and am in a PhD program now, and it is because that maid took a big risk just to help me. My daughter became hateful toward the name Zahira at about 10 and then pretended to have a more typical Canadian name or used a nickname. She stopped appreciating that she was named after the woman who helped us escape hell. When Zahira turned 18, she changed her name to Ruhani, again fake. I can live with a name change, but Ruhani is so close to my mother-in-law's name. It triggers me. I've told her, and she doesn't care. My psychologist has helped me with this, but it hurts. I accept she is not Zahira anymore, but I cannot say Ruhani even if everyone does, so I use pet names like baby or sweetie. I thought she wouldn't notice, but she has. I'm pregnant, and we learned it's a girl. My husband said we can name her Zahira, and my daughter said do it so you can call me Ruhani. With all my stress, I got angry and said she can't be replaced, and I still hate her new name. It started an argument between us, with my daughter calling me a selfish jerk for not accepting her new name. My husband understands, as he knows I hate his mother, but my sons are on my daughter's side and said to post here saying people would agree I am the jerk. I do not like them using that word, but am I? /relevant comments. Commenter. Why exactly did your daughter hate the original name she was given? Did she get bullied a lot for having a weird name? Because you don't really explain why she hated the name, and frankly, you haven't made any indication to understand why she did. Ops response. I still do not entirely understand myself, beyond her just saying that she hates the name and refuses to go by it. Yes, there was a bullying issue at one point, but my daughter was always very open about it, and we always managed to get things resolved. The bullies were more typical anti-Muslim bullies than just your name is weird. Commenter 2. Not the jerk. This is rooted in trauma for you. I can't imagine how I'd feel if my daughter named herself nearly after my abuser. Your daughter is old enough to be more understanding and considerate of the situation. Even if the name was important to her, it isn't wrong to expect a bit of grace in the situation. Also, reusing a name already used would make me uncomfortable. Ops response. Thank you, but it isn't about reusing it. It would be almost like I'm replacing my daughter with her sister, and while my mother-in-law could do that with me, I cannot. My daughter is my princess and my perfect girl. There is no replacing her, no matter what her name is, even if I will never be able to like that name. Commenter 3. Info: do you think your daughter chose that name on purpose because it is so similar to your mother-in-law's name? Based on how spiteful and uncaring she sounds about this issue, I just can't help but wonder if she's doing it on purpose. Ops response. No, I cannot believe that she would do that to me. Downvoted commenter 4. I went through the same thing with my mom. I've hated my name since I was a child, and she knew that. When I finally got the nerve to change it, she freaked out. She initially told me to give her time to process it, and I did. Afterwards, though, every time it was brought up, she outright told me how much she hates my new name, would make it all about her and her feelings, and in the end told me she will never call me by my new name and continue to use the old one. Guess what? We're completely no contact now, and have been for a few years. You're the jerk. Your daughter has nothing to do with your trauma. It is not okay to project your feelings onto her. She is a completely different individual than the one who hurt you. As an individual, she does not have to quietly accept your choices for her, and she absolutely does not need to catch hate for something she didn't even do. It is narcissistic of you to make her choices all about you. Obviously, your therapist isn't helping you if you are still having outbursts at your daughter about what your mother-in-law did. Heal yourself and let your daughter be her own person. Ops response. Unlike your mother, I do not continue to call my daughter by her old name. If she does not want it, then so be it. But that name will always hurt me. That is why I tried the pet names and nicknames to try and make it better for us. I will keep trying the therapy, but if you know anything about psychology, you know you can't just go in and be cured. I may never get over it. And as for making my choices all about me, my entire life has been defined by making it better for her. I have not lived a day for myself since I was a teenager. I am not a narcissist. My daughter is my life, no matter what her name is. Downvoted commenter 4. I did not call you a narcissist. I said the way you are handling this situation is narcissistic. Besides, you are just splitting hairs to make yourself sound better. You are still refusing to accept her new name by dancing around it with pet names. Using the pet names is obviously still hurting her, since she brought it up. You are still projecting your painful past onto her, over something as trivial as a name no less. Also, we don't need to throw our degrees in each other's faces. Only insecure people do that. Besides, you supposedly came here for advice. Or maybe you just came here hoping to get validation for your invalidating actions. Ops response. You are making my painful past seem trivial by saying I should just accept her new name. A name that means so much pain and abuse to me? It is not as simple as just accepting it. I cannot snap my fingers and remove all of the pain that I went through. I am not throwing my degree in your face. I did not mention my education at all. I did not come here for advice or for validation. I came here because my sons recommended I post on here, because they were sure everyone would say I was wrong and the jerk. I agreed to give it a try. Downvoted commenter 5. You're married to your cousin, and you're worried that your daughter's fake name is too similar to your mother-in-law? You're the jerk. She's an adult, and hopefully not too damaged by the incest she's been raised with. Let her have her name. Ops response. Getting married to my cousin was not what I wanted in my life. Yes, I ultimately consented to it because I thought it would be best for me. I was wrong. But there are thousands of girls across South Asia who are given an impossible choice, just like me. My parents were cousins too, it is just how it is in my culture. Update 6 months later. I tried talking to my daughter about her old name and why she hated it, but she gave wishy-washy reasons on it never suiting her. She got angry when I asked if it was because of bullying. I asked if she cared about my maid's sacrifice, and she said she didn't and that what I went through in India did not seem bad. I asked if she cared how similar her name is to my mother-in-law's name, she said she didn't, and it was my issue to get over and didn't want to hear any more nicknames or to use therapy as an excuse. After that, I don't know, I kind of regressed mentally and started having nightmares of India. I guess I got overwhelmed by stress because of that, being pregnant, and my PhD program. So I visited my brother Fayez, 22M, in Brampton for a weekend. He lives in my property there and told me that he got a job in England. He left a few days ago, and I have started the process of moving to Ontario. As my daughter goes to university here in BC, she is not going with us. I guess it just was that if being around my own daughter was hurting me so much to the point I was scared I'd miscarry, then I needed to be gone for both of our sakes. Making arrangements to continue working for my PhD was the most stressful thing, but that's done. Ever since I made the decision to move, I've felt so much better and so free. I honestly can't wait to be gone from here. I will continue to pay for my daughter's school, living expenses, and her therapy, but maybe by living alone she'll understand what it was like for me when it was just us after I escaped. Just maybe she'll learn everything we have is because of that maid. I know I was wrong to spoil her and always indulge her, but she's always been the light that got me home. Part of me feels as if I am abandoning her over something as stupid as a name, but soon she will be the age I was when I had her, and every girl needs to grow up and learn empathy. I have tried to be a better mother than my own. I just hope that this is what is best for her. On the other hand, my husband and boys are so excited to move to Ontario, so I know we'll have a good time there. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. I asked if she cared about my maid's sacrifice, and she said she didn't, and that what I went through in India did not seem bad. I think your daughter has had too much contact with her paternal grandmother. If she knew nothing about the situation, she wouldn't be minimizing it, which makes me think either her dad or her grandmother got in her ear and kept saying it wasn't that bad. Either way, this comment is a slap in the face, and the kind of thing that a relationship has a hard time recovering from. So I don't fault you at all for moving on for the health of you and your baby. Good luck in Ontario. Commenter 2. Is there any chance your daughter is in contact with her paternal grandmother? Ops response. I don't know. I don't monitor her cell phone or her social media accounts. Commenter 3. Is the maid that helped doing okay? I really hope you were able to help her/protect her. Ops response. I don't know. My husband told me that she left their employ about a year after I left because her family found better work in Delhi. It is a big city, so I like to imagine that she is doing well there. Commenter 4. Info, you were so traumatized by your mother-in-law that you can't say her name, but you stayed with her son who never stood up for you or helped you escape? Ops response. We were separated. When he came to Canada off of his own educational merit, I did not sponsor him. I let him see our daughter. From there, things slowly ended up happening between us again with certain conditions. He was never unkind to me in India, and he loved me, but it took time for me to feel about him the same way. Commenter 5. Hey, you made the original post advised by your kids, who I assume are on Reddit, to get other people's perspectives. Have you since shown them any of the replies? Or your husband? Ops response. My boys read the thread multiple times, and I think it convinced them not to argue about this with me anymore. My younger son cried when he realized how much I suffered in India and told me he doesn't think I'm wrong anymore. My older son got into an argument with his sister for not being more understanding. I had to stop that argument because it is not his place to talk like that to his sister. Second update 3 years 7 months later. I posted here nearly 4 years ago. So much has changed since then, and I really felt like posting today because in 2 weeks my daughter is going to get married. It has had me reflecting a lot because when I was a teenager, I was a girl who was raising her own siblings and being hurt so badly in so many different ways by my parents. I never wanted kids, I dreaded the idea of being pregnant, I never wanted to be married, and I had so many dreams that never came true. It's why I wanted my daughter to have everything that I never had and to be the opposite of my own mother. Since I posted, so many things have changed in my life. I've moved across the country, I've got a PhD now, I've got a job which, 20 years ago, it seemed like to me that I could never get. But most importantly to me is that somehow my husband managed to get into contact with my maid who saved my life. I know it meant putting up with his mother, but he did it, and I got to visit her, I got to meet all her family, and I got to tell her about my life. It feels like I got to unburden everything to her. In so many ways, it was like she was the older sister that I wish I'd had to protect me when I was a child, and I am so grateful to have her back. I still don't know why my daughter hated her name for so long. She still doesn't tell me and gets agitated whenever I ask. But she is using her name again, not the one she changed it to. Her fiancé is Indian just like us, and she started using it again because he liked that name over the one she chose. It's a ridiculous reason, but it's fine. But she appreciates it now, and she appreciates what it means to me because when she told her fiancé's mother, she started crying over how beautiful the story is. Apparently, her mother-in-law was able to get through to her in a way that I was never able to. Her mother-in-law and I have become so close since we met as well. It's like she gets me. She's actually from India, but there are so many things about her and me that just click so well together. It is like I have another younger sister now. I know my daughter wants to be more like her than me, but I don't feel jealous like I think I'm supposed to. I feel happy that such a wonderful woman will be able to be there for her when she's married and guide her. As long as this woman is in my daughter's life, I know I will never have to worry for her. Looking back at that first post from 4 years ago, the person that I was is so different than who I am now. It's like back then I couldn't see things clearly. I was worried about my education, my pregnancy, my daughter, and thought it was selfish to be worried about myself. But I am so happy now. I wish I could go back to me and my husband when we first got married, when we were just these 18-year-olds who knew nothing, and tell them that one day we'll be this happy. I love my daughters, my sons, and my sisters, and I love that I can finally live the life I want. /relevant comments. Commenter. Not the jerk, and honestly this is one of the most beautiful updates I've read on here. The part about reconnecting with your mate who saved your life honestly made me tear up. Some people come into our lives exactly when we need them, and stay with us even when they're gone. Also love that you're not jealous of your daughter's relationship with her mother-in-law. That takes real maturity. So many parents would feel threatened, but you just feel grateful someone else can be there for her. You've been through so much and built the life you deserve. Congrats on the PhD, the healing, and the upcoming wedding. Commenter 2. Glad to see a happy update years later. I do believe your daughter probably didn't have a good reason to dislike her name. It's possible her grandmother, your mother-in-law, manipulated her into not liking it, and she's the reason why your daughter changed her name. Commenter 3. I think, from what I've read and from what I think might have happened, that perhaps her daughter didn't like that she was named after a maid. She might have heard the story of her namesake several times and gotten stuck on our former maid had this name and I named you after her, a maid, and that could also be why she didn't want to say why she didn't like it. She didn't want to appear classist and also show that she fundamentally didn't understand the true meaning behind her name. Now, naming herself after her paternal grandmother was a jerk move, and the fact she only seemed to start liking her name because her fiancé and her mother-in-law like it makes me think she might be very superficial and wants to conform to what they like. But I don't think she truly likes the name or appreciates it even now. AITA for not offering to care for my unwell ex-husband? Posted by you/visible_yesterday_62. Throwaway account. I, 56F, have been married to my wife Angela, 56F, for a year, and we're planning our first anniversary celebration with a trip overseas. I was very excited to spend this time with my wife, but unfortunately, my ex-husband Dan, 58M, was recently hospitalized, which is putting a damper on my plans. Backstory: I met Dan in college, and we got married shortly after graduating when we found out that I was pregnant. At the time, it felt like the right thing to do, but looking back, it was a bad idea. I resented having to put my career aspirations on hold in order to be the full-time caregiver, and Dan resented having to be the main financial provider. However, this did not stop him from constantly bringing it up whenever I asked him to help with the kids or the home. He also never defended me when his mother would stop by, unannounced, and the household wasn't up to the Queen's standard. I felt so exhausted and trapped, and if it weren't for my kids' junior, 34M, Sarah, 32F, Michelle, 29F, and Mike, 29M, I would have left years ago. Unfortunately, Dan did not have the same values as me, and he blindsided me with divorce papers. It was a rough process, but after the first year of our divorce being finalized, I got my groove back. Within the next 4 years, I was able to get a nice apartment and a good career. Present day, a couple of weeks ago, Dan was rushed to the hospital. While the doctors were able to save him, his health took a turn for the worse. His wife is now essentially working to provide for their kids, while her parents watch them to save on daycare. I learned all of this through my children, as I do not care to have any direct contact with Dan, but almost every time I talk to them, they always bring up how stressed and tired they are over having to look after their father. I thought I was just being a sympathetic ear, but a couple of days ago, my children came together to confront me about my lack of willingness to offer assistance to their father, and as their mother, I should want to care for him to make their own lives easier. My children know that while I have a full-time job, I can make up my own hours, and they want me to come into his house at least twice a week to make sure he's clean and fed, or pay for a nurse to come do it. I refused, stating that Dan and I have been divorced for years, and that their stepmom can handle that. That's when they told me that she didn't care about their dad like they do, and is most likely hoping for him to pass so she can collect on his insurance policy as the legal wife. My daughter Sarah then began to cry and asked me if I cared whether or not she had a dad anymore, while Junior and Mike thought that I was being bitter. Michelle asked me to put them first and said that I can reschedule my anniversary trip with Angela. My former in-laws are also calling me to say that I need to do this, and that I'd be a horrible mom. Am I the jerk? /relevant comments. Commenter. Not the jerk. Turn this completely around and ask your children how long you were supposed to put your life on hold, and are you never allowed to be happy and live your life? Tell your children that between the 4 of them and your ex-in-laws, they can split the costs of a hired nurse, healthcare professional, or domestic aid to go to your father's house twice a week. Why should you pay for his care? You don't have the bandwidth and mental strength to be their father's carer. And it's really manipulative and cruel of them to emotionally coerce you to become your ex's carer. Ops response. Dan's parents are retired and rely on him to pay their bills. I'm told that Dan's wife freaked out at the mention of having his parents move in to help save money, and his mom's mobility isn't great, so it's not like she can do all the cooking and cleaning. Also, my kids have student loans, and most of them are parents themselves, so money is tight for them. To hire a good domestic aid, they said that they don't have the money, and that's why they're currently taking turns, but it's getting to be a lot for them. Up to another commenter. My in-laws think I baby-trapped their precious baby boy because I didn't want to work, so they were happy when he left me. They felt as if he deserved better and accused one of my children of not being his because they didn't look enough like him. Up to another commenter. We're Americans, and our healthcare system is terrible, worse if you don't have money. I was told that, since my ex made too much money in the past 4 years, he doesn't qualify for assistance. Up to another commenter. Technically, he did have a girlfriend a week after moving out of the house, but he ended up leaving her, never married, for his current wife. His current wife was also born within the same decade as our children. Up to another commenter. From what I am told, she moved him out of their shared bed, doesn't help him with his medication, takes the food to his room but won't cut it up into small pieces so it's easier for him to eat, and leaves it on the other side of the room to motivate him to move. She doesn't take him to his appointments, and unless my children, usually my daughters, come by, he's not kept very clean. My children say that Dan has limited mobility and can't verbally communicate like he once did at the moment, but the doctors are hopeful that he'll be able to regain most of his functions if they stick to the plan. The only thing I have to go on is what my children are telling me that they've personally witnessed. Up to another commenter. Right now my kids are taking turns caring for him, but they all live about 40 minutes to an hour away, while I live about 20 minutes. I don't speak to Dan, so I didn't have his address. Most of my kids have children of their own, and their partners aren't happy about their lack of effort with their own kids for a currently undetermined amount of time. My children are bringing him food and feeding him, giving him his medication, and making sure he's clean and taking him to his appointments. At least that's what they tell me. Angela and I have no kids at home, and we're both earning good money. I do have a lot more time and disposable income, which is why my children want or expect me to help. Also, if I'm being honest, I don't think I can entirely blame them because I had a people-pleaser mentality. That's taken me a few years of therapy to unlearn, so I feel like that's where my kids get their entitlement from when it comes to me. Update 2 months 2 weeks later. I forgot the password to this account, and my stepdaughter showed me what to do. Once I accessed this, I saw that I got a few messages from people asking for an update, so I thought I'd share. First, a few people seemed to be confused, so let me be clear. I am a woman who is married to another woman. My own parents passed away years ago, so their opinion is irrelevant. My wife and I both have children from previous relationships, but we didn't meet until after our children were adults, so my wife and I are the only ones who have lived together. Now onto what almost everyone else cares about the most. I went on a cruise. It was great, and my wife and I had a really great time. My children were predictably unhappy, and I'm sure that my temporary blocking of them didn't make it better. Most of my children kept calling and telling me that I was a selfish and awful woman for choosing to go on a vacation instead of being there for the family, but, like many of you have stated, I reminded them that their father divorced me, and therefore my obligations to him ended. If it were any of them that had a medical need, I would cancel without question, but I would not for their father. I thought I could leave it at that, but because they kept calling and texting the first 3 days of the trip, that's when I decided to block. Unfortunately, my ex's health took a turn for the worse, and he had to go back to the hospital, and his lack of proper care triggered an investigation. I didn't know any of this until I unblocked my kids the day I got back, and some of them blamed me. I've come to the conclusion that they're all just mad at the situation, and I'm a convenient villain. I've accepted this because I can understand the fear and anger of facing the idea of losing a parent that you love. I just hope that one day we can all sit down with a family therapist and mediate the situation. However, this did start to trigger my past tendencies of sacrificing my own happiness and well-being for my children, but my wife, therapist, and even a small piece of my inner self had to remind me that my children are adults, and that my ex isn't my responsibility. I tried to reach out, and so far most of my children aren't talking to me and have made it very clear that I will not be able to see my grandchildren as a punishment. It's sad, and I'm still wrestling with the guilt and doubt, but my wife and stepchildren are being very supportive, while my other family is a mix, and most of my friends are neutral. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Let's be real here, up. Your friends aren't neutral. They think you should have stepped up for your ex, not because of any past familial obligation, but because you are a woman, and as a woman, you shouldn't let people suffer that way. Which is total BS, by the way. You are divorced and now married to someone else. That someone else is 1000% your priority now, not the ex. And as for your children withholding the grands, let them. Sometimes you gotta take the collateral even when you aren't the one causing the damage. Just remember, when your kids want something from you, don't give it to them. They have set the tone from here on in. Resonate that tone right back at them. Edit to add, I hope you enjoyed the majority of your cruise with your significant other. You deserve it. Commenter 2. Not the jerk. I'm surprised at the number of people posting similar stories. Why isn't it okay for women to move on and be happy after they were the ones who did everything for the house, children, and spouse, had to sacrifice their own mental and physical health, were cheated on, and then dumped? Ex made his bed, and if his kids and family are so concerned, they can step in and be there. Ops response. I've actually spoken to many different people about this, and we all agree it's due to the societal belief and expectation that all women are nurturers, and that we are supposed to be caretakers. That all women need to take care of everyone else but ourselves. Anything outside of that is considered selfish. Commenter 3. Info, why don't the kids take care of their dad if they care? Ask them, why don't they take care of him if they're so concerned? Ops response. I stated this in the comments of the original post, but my kids all have families and full jobs of their own, and they live about 45 minutes to an hour away. They initially started to take turns, but they said that they're all exhausted and are starting to feel the pressure from their spouses about not being home. My ex's wife is now working full-time and says she has her hands full with their own 2 kids. My ex had 2 kids with her, so she's not in a position to give him the care he needs, and she won't allow money to be spent on a home care nurse. I live much closer. I didn't realize this when my wife and I moved in because I didn't know my ex's address at the time, and I have a job where I can make up my own schedule, so my kids wanted me to come around and help my ex. Commenter 4. So, what you're saying is that all of them are putting themselves first. They're not coming together with a plan to help your ex. For instance, they could all have chipped in to pay the home care nurse. Also, forgive me if I'm coming in too strong. If his current wife is neglecting him, and he's getting worse, health-wise, your kids would have grounds to take the caregiving away from her. See, if this was my father, I would be pushing for a power of attorney to make decisions about his health, his care, and his finances. Ops response. Also, forgive me if I'm coming in too strong. If his current wife is neglecting him, and he's getting worse, health-wise, your kids would have grounds to take the caregiving away from her. I think that is what the investigation is for. Commenter 5. What's wild is, he's not even their responsibility. Sure, it's a wonderful thing when kids take care of their aging parents, but they don't owe it to them. Their father might have fared better had he thought about someone else's happiness for once. But instead, he divorced a woman who loved him and was willing to stick it out through the tough times, and found a new wife who doesn't care about him. He's living the life he chose. Period. Ops response. But instead, he divorced a woman who loved him and was willing to stick it out through the tough times, and found a new wife who doesn't care about him. I think you're giving me too much credit. In the beginning of our relationship, I can say that I did love him, but at my place in life now and looking back, I was never actually in love with him. I actually wanted to divorce him for a while, but I was willing to wait until all the kids were adults, while he wasn't. If he had major health problems while within our marriage, I would have done things differently than what his current wife is doing, but I feel like I'd grow to resent him. Especially with his mom around to criticize everything that I was doing. Second update 4 months later. I hope everyone reading this had a wonderful holiday and will have a great new year. For anyone who has been following my drama-filled and emotionally taxing life, I have another update for anyone who cares. Update: this year it was my wife and my turn to host, and since this past November was rough for us and her side of the family, we decided to go all out with a bigger tree, decorations, planned out activities and meals, etc. Also, as the adults, we decided to do a secret gift giver where we pull names out of a hat. This year I got my stepdaughter Megan, 24F, a sweater that I made by hand, but it was terrible, so I decided to make it a gag gift with a gift card to something she actually liked. On the actual day of, my wife and I woke up, had our breakfast, gave each other our spouse gift, and then got ready for everyone else. It was Megan, Miranda, 34F, Miranda's husband, Jack, 34M, the grandkids, 8F and 5F, and a couple of others. None of the guests were my children with their families. It was sad but not unexpected, and I think people could sense that because the kids were extra affectionate with me. We played board games, ate, did crafts, talked, watched movies, and opened gifts. It was nice. When there was a moment, Miranda pulled me off to the side and asked me to adopt her. I don't want to go into the details, but Miranda's father was never active in her life and hasn't spoken to her in about 3 years. She said that with the coming year, if something were to happen, she wouldn't want a man she barely knows to have the power to make medical decisions for her if Jack or my wife are unable to. She and Jack know that if anything were to happen, I wouldn't let my wife raise the grandkids alone. This had taken me by complete surprise. I cried while graciously accepting, and then we made the announcement. We're going to start the legal process in a week, but the kids have already switched to calling me a grandma type of name. We took and posted pictures, and since I knew I was blocked, I didn't expect my children to see. Apparently, they did. They're all upset with me and unblocked me just to let me know. My children feel that it's weird to do an adult adoption, that it's disrespectful to announce it on social media, and how hurtful it is that I made Megan a sweater but never made a thing for them. I stopped crocheting when my grandma, the one who taught me, passed away when I was a teen, and I just never had the spare time when my children were kids. I tried to call to explain, but I was blocked again. However, my daughter-in-law, Junior's wife, sent me a message with some info. My children are mad that I got Miranda's kids presents but not my real grandkids. They think I'm replacing them all with my wife's family, that I'm selfish, and how they can't believe that I never once tried to reach out to them to see the grandkids. I wanted to reach out, but I thought it would be less harmful for me and them if I didn't force contact. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Congratulations on formally gaining a daughter. Your children are very entitled, unreasonable, and illogical. They quit talking to you. They cut you off from your grandchildren. They blocked you? And now they're mad you didn't reach out to them when they blocked you, and that you didn't buy their children gifts, even though they cut you off from them. Good for you, not giving in to them. After rereading your posts, it seems to me if you'd reached out and bought gifts, they'd be mad that you ignored their boundaries. They tried to put you between a rock and a hard place, thinking you'd cave to their demands. Since you haven't caved on anything, they're furious about everything, but don't know what to do next to get you to respond. Commenter 2. Adult adoption is not weird. My grandma did it for both my uncles, who were not her biological sons, when they were all in their 50s or 60s. I think it's sweet, and congratulations. Your kids may or may not ever come around, but I hope they eventually do for everyone's sake. Third update 5 months 2 weeks later. I, 56F, have come across a new problem in my life, and my wife, 56F, thinks that coming here will either help in getting another perspective or give me validation. I have 4 children that I birthed and raised, 35M, 32F, 29M, and 29F, by my ex-husband, and they all recently decided to cut me out of their lives as I refused to care for their father. I refused on the basis that he and I divorced over 10 years ago, and they feel like I should help take care of him as a favor to them. I've stuck by my decision and chose to go on a cruise with my wife instead of caring for their dad, and they haven't spoken to me directly since. Right now, the only way I'd be able to see my children or grandchildren would be if I physically went to their house and forced my way in. But I don't want to be that person. I'll admit it hasn't been easy and I miss them, but I, my wife, and therapist all agree that if I give in, then I'm just showing that I'll cave to their demands every time, as they've made it very clear it's either I care for their father nearly every day or nothing. I don't want to do that, especially since my ex-husband and I didn't divorce on good terms. Recently, my eldest son's wife Kate, 34F, reached out to me and said that she had an emergency, asked if I wanted to see my grandchildren Emma, 9F, and Kyle, 6M, and I obviously agreed. At the time, I was under the impression that my son was aware, and since I was still blocked, I didn't think to reach out and check with him. Kate dropped the kids off and I had a nice time with the kids. Kate came back a few hours later and asked me if I could watch the kids again, and when I asked about how my son felt, she told me that while he was still angry, he was fine and to just contact her if there were any problems. Unfortunately, Kate was lying, and I found out about this when my son came to my house furious. Apparently, Kate and he had been having problems since November, and she started looking for lawyers after my son told her to quit her part-time job, stop going to school online, and be a stay-at-home mom, while also working on baby number 3. Kate stated that my son has been doing things to sabotage her, and I'm sad to say that some of the things she has said track with my son. His father was the same. My son stopped payment for daycare. Kate's nearest relative lives about an hour away, and any friend that she would trust to look after her kids and who were willing are also friends with my son and refused to get involved. I was not happy about being lied to, but I can't find myself to be too angry because I got to see 2 of my grandkids. I admit that it's very selfish, but I agreed to keep taking the kids for her in exchange that she not lie to me and understand that if my son comes for the kids, I can't/won't keep them from him. I've also agreed to pay for the summer daycare program for the kids so they have something fun to do, and my son is predictably not happy with me. My kids have unblocked me, but only to say that I'm a traitor and how terrible of a person I am. It hurts, but my wife feels that providing a safe and fun place for the grandkids comes first, so I have to ask, am I the jerk? Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Wow, your son is the jerk here. I mean, him stopping to pay for daycare isn't just hurting his wife, it's hurting his kids. He sounds like he doesn't give a crap about his kids. This is an abusive relationship. I hope Kate gets out quickly. If your son is just like your ex, then I can see why you divorced him. Not the jerk. Ops response. I'm definitely not happy that my son chose to stop paying for daycare before discussing it with his wife and expecting her to be a stay-at-home mom, but I feel like I can't be too upset because of how I raised him. In my own childhood, I was taught to believe that a mother must always sacrifice for her children and never prioritize your own happiness and desires before the kids. Some people in my and my ex-husband's family think that if a woman can stay home with her kids, then she should, and that a mom can always get a job when the kids are an adult. My ex and I put this mentality in all of our children's minds through our words and actions over the years, so it's another reason why I feel like I'm a jerk. Downvoted commenter 2. You're the jerk. You have been clear that your son's wife has previously lied outright to you about your son knowing his kids were with you. Why on earth would you believe anything else she says about your son? She's out to screw him over, and you are helping her. You have zero proof anything she says is true, and you do have evidence she is a liar. Why would you not verify before getting involved and acting against your son without a clear understanding of both sides? It appears you will align yourself with anyone who gives you the time of day, so long as you can interfere in your kids' lives in a negative way. To believe a proven liar without confirming your son's position makes you a complete jerk. I clearly understand why your kids want nothing to do with you. Ops response. Why on earth would you believe anything else she says about your son? Because when I asked him, he either confirmed or didn't deny anything that Kate said. Not to mention, she showed me texts, and my son is tragically showing the same form of behavior his father did to me. I do love my son, but that doesn't mean I'm going to pretend he's perfect and can do no wrong. Op adds an edit to her post. Since more than one person brought up a good point, I just wanted to be clear. When I found out that Kate was initially lying, I didn't just take what she said as her reasonings as the whole truth. I did ask my son, and he either admitted it or didn't deny the accusation. Kate also showed me text messages, both in the form of screenshots and just handing me her phone. My son is also tragically displaying a lot of the same behaviors as my ex. Also, my ex does have a wife, and from when I last spoke to my children about it, they said that she wasn't doing a good job. Although I haven't spoken to her directly, I don't feel the need, and I also think that that's being too nosy. For more details, my ex and my kids wanting me to take care of him, I believe you can go to my profile and see the post I made about it months ago on another forum. Fourth update 7 months later. Happy holidays! I made this post a while ago, and because I still get update requests, I decided to post an update. To get to the main points, over the summer I paid for my son's children to go to summer camp during the day so Kate would have some free time to get her affairs in order, and I offered to look after them. My son, however, went to the camp and told the people there that he didn't consent to the kids being there, so their spots were taken. My grandchildren were really upset because it was a nice camp, and it had a lot of fun activities for them to do. My son basically just didn't give a crap because his goal was to essentially use them to keep Kate at home. He also threatened to call the cops if they ever went to my place, so Kate essentially just left the kids with my son and told him to figure out what to do with them, and she made sure to let the kids know that my son was the reason why they couldn't go to the camp. When they met with the lawyers, my son tried to claim abandonment on Kate's part, but she showed proof that my son interfered with my grandchildren's activities while offering no alternative. While the divorce was going on, Kate got my son to agree, in writing, that he would allow them to have summer activities, and using my own wife's connections, my grandchildren were able to get into another summer program for the last month of summer, and they had a nice time. Kate has her own place and a new and better paying job, and she has allowed me to FaceTime and see my grandchildren from time to time, and it was nice. My children have now completely unblocked, but I had to block them because they would only call to berate and harass me, and even started to cause trouble for my wife and my respective jobs. We ended up having to send an official legal notice to get them to stop. It's also draining and upsetting, but my wife and stepchildren are really getting me through all of this. It's not perfect, but I'm happier now than I was while married to my ex-husband. Also, I heard through Kate that while the worst part of my ex's health issues is over, he's now permanently in a less than ideal state. He was also secretly spending thousands of dollars on OF accounts, which is one of the reasons why his current wife was so upset, and that it was actually one of my daughters who called Adult Social Services to file a complaint. The investigation ended without any fault being found with my ex's wife, and that my ex was just simply refusing to put in the work to get better. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. So sorry you have to deal with all that. Your son is a huge douchebag. He screwed up his own kid's summer just to mess with his ex. Good on Kate for making him pay for it. Your children all suck. Just write them all off and spend time with your stepkids and Kate and her family. Good luck. Ops response. Thank you. I'm honestly really struggling with this issue between my children and me because I don't think they would really be as bad if I hadn't raised them to believe that a good mother is always selfless and never puts anything before her biological children. I'm staying firm with my boundaries, but I hope one day we're all able to sit down and talk. Preferably with a professional, neutral party to help mediate. Up to another commenter. They're aware of Kate's side of the story, but they're choosing to believe their brother over her and feel like she's over-exaggerating, as well as being a bad mom for not putting the children first. AITA for refusing to return a lost pet? Posted by you/PetsTheftThrow. So over 2 years ago, a cat appeared in my yard. He was skinny, skittish, unneutered, and had a serious abscess on his rump, likely from a cat bite wound. I took him to the vet that night and had him treated. The vet estimated he was about 6 months old. I called the local county shelters to file a found cat report. I also posted on Craigslist, posted his info at local vet offices, and kept an eye out for flyers. He was scanned for a microchip and didn't have one. At that point, I didn't intend on keeping him and planned to find him a home when he was healthy. After his abscess healed, he was still limping, and we discovered his hind leg had been fractured and healed poorly. I spent several thousand to fix it, and he just sort of slipped into the family. To recap, I found a sick cat and spent a good chunk to get him healthy. The cat had no ID, and no one responded to my efforts to find the owner. I've now had the cat for almost 2.5 years. Recently, someone contacted me on social media, claiming to be the cat's original owner. The cat has distinctive markings, and he has pictures to back this up. They allowed the cat to free roam and assumed he had been killed when he failed to return home one night. The owner's daughter was very upset by the loss. He wanted the cat back. I refused, on the basis that I've now had the cat longer than the original owner did, and his lack of responsibility in searching for the cat or providing a form of ID. I feel I did my due diligence, and I'm now very attached to the kitty in question. I also worry about his future if I did return him. I've been told by the owner and some of his friends that I'm a giant jerk for disappointing the daughter and stealing the cat. I think they're the jerk for writing their cat off as dead without a search and expecting me to give him up after having him for 2 years. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Not the jerk. I'd keep it. However, you might want to read through this page. I'm no big city animal law lawyer, but did look it up and skim it. Lost pet law. Only skimmed, but sounds like the original owner could fight you for it. You'd have a pretty good leg to stand on, given the shape the cat was in, your efforts to fix it up, the effort you put in to find the owner originally, and the time frame, which might be past the statute of limitations anyways. But no, you're not the jerk. However, keep in mind that just because the cat was in bad shape and the original owner didn't respond to your search doesn't necessarily mean they were bad owners. It may have been missing for months before you found it, during which time they quit looking and it suffered those injuries. Still, I feel it's your cat now. Ops response. I was actually giving the owner the benefit of the doubt when I first found the cat, which is why I put effort into trying to find them. I'm in the rescue community, and I think we often judge owners way too harshly. Like, I may not approve of letting your cat outside unsupervised, but I'd still rather a cat have an indoor/outdoor home than no home at all. I once found a little old dog wandering around. She was shaggy, and her nails were long, and she had bad teeth. Nothing awful, just not ideal. I took her to the shelter to get scanned for a chip, and they insisted I should turn her in because she was clearly abused. Instead, I walked around the neighborhood and found her owners out searching 2 streets over. Turns out she was a bit unkempt because she was 16 and had cancer, so her owners didn't want to stress her with grooming or put her through a risky dental. She was just a little dying old lady spending her last days with her family. I have no doubt that if I had turned her in at the shelter, she would have been dead within an hour, legal or not. Our local shelters are trash. So yeah, I hear ya that even the best pet owner can end up with a missing pet. In my kitty's case, the owner admitted up front that he'd made no effort to look. I'd honestly like to offer to let the daughter have some pics or even visit him, but I don't want this guy knowing where I live. I don't think this guy would try to sue, but I do have proof of the attempts to find him, like emails and fax records. So hopefully that would be useful if he did. Commenter 2. Honestly, don't even offer to let the kid visit. It sounds super harsh, but by doing that, it's a way of validating their claims. If the daughter is upset, it should be because her parents put no effort into finding the cat to begin with. Also, lightly an unethical life pro tip, but if you're in the rescue community, you probably know. Get the cat microchipped. I work at a shelter, and whoever's name is on that chip is the owner, even if they haven't seen the cat in 10 years. Chip the cat. Ops response. Oh, he was chipped the day I decided to stop pretending I was searching for a forever home. Commenter 3. Keep the damn cat. The daughter can't be that sad after 2 years. After you put money into fixing that poor guy, he was yours no matter what. Downvoted commenter 4. The daughter actually can still be sad. The loss of a pet devastates some people for years, even decades. I know people, otherwise happy, who still mourn cats who were taken from them over 60 years ago. The original poster should offer a carefully supervised visitation for the child and the cat. Ops response. I do feel for the daughter. I don't know her age, but I certainly remember and miss my childhood cats. Including a kitten who passed away from genetic heart problems at only a few months old. It doesn't take long for some people to bond with a critter. Though I will say this cat in particular is what I would categorize as difficult. When I first took him in, he had serious problems with bite inhibition. He's the type who will accept a few pets and then violently lash out. He was also terrible with other cats. In my experience, he acts like a cat who was separated from his mother and littermates too young and missed out on crucial socialization. It took a lot of effort and training to get him to where he is today. I still can't pet him for more than a few minutes at a time, but now he'll tell me nicely when he's had enough. It also took me almost a full year to fully integrate him in with the other cats, and I still separate him if I have to go out. Point being, this isn't a cat I would personally allow around a kid. Part of the reason I'm so attached is because he was such a brat and needed so much work on so many levels. Not saying the daughter couldn't have been attached, but I think many people would struggle to bond with a cat who won't sit in laps or accept most interaction. I'd like to offer a visit, but right now I don't think the original owner knows exactly where I live, and I'd rather keep it that way. I worry he might try to steal the cat. Update 1 month later. I did not confirm the cat was the same animal, since I can't know for sure, but I did say if it was the same cat. I have now had him for longer than the original potential owner, 6 months versus almost 3 years. Due to this and the fact that he had no tag or chip and the owner never searched for him, I don't feel I have to return him. I have not contacted the man since, but he continues to message me at least once a week and is now threatening to take me to court. I have not replied. Is this something I need to worry about? Should I look into getting a lawyer? If he did try to sue for cat custody, would he have a case? Considering the timeline, it's likely the cat's leg was broken while in the care of the owner, and my vet is willing to testify to that. Would that increase the likelihood I would win if he tried to sue? I'm really not willing to give up this cat. I've paid over $5,000 getting him healthy, but more important than the money is the simple fact that I love the furry little jerk. I don't want him going back to a home that neglected him and let him roam without even the most basic care. I don't believe the man knows where I live. My social media was pretty locked down as far as personal info in the first place. I don't actually know how he found me though, and that makes me nervous. If he continues contacting me, is there anything I can do legally to discourage that? Second update 2 months later. On advice from the good people here, I blocked further messages. Yesterday I got a letter in the mail demanding return of the cat. Previously, they were only contacting me on social media, which did not have my home address or any identifying information. I don't know how they found out where I live, but I'm now very worried they might try to steal the cat. I have home security, and the cat is indoor only and chipped. I'd like to think the guy wouldn't be dumb enough to break and enter, but clearly he isn't firing on all cylinders to begin with. Should I file a police report? Can I even do that if they haven't broken any laws? The letter didn't contain any specific threats, just demands. Is there anything I can do legally to discourage further contact? Could a lawyer do something like a cease and desist letter? I have no idea why this dude wants the cat he wrote off as dead years ago back so damn badly, but Kitty is happy and healthy and sassy and not going anywhere. I don't want to spend my life afraid to run out to the store though, so any advice would be much appreciated. Third update 1 year later. Some LA posters thought it might have been a scam. I was skeptical because they hadn't asked for money, even after things had dragged on for a while. Well, I guess they were playing the long con, because I just got my first letter suggesting a few $100s might just assist the owner to move on from their loss. As a bonus, it was sent on letterhead from a non-existent lawyer's office. If I don't pay the cat fee, they plan to sue. My favorite part is that they don't specify for what, exactly. They're just going to sue. You know, like lawyers do. I'm still kinda worried they might try to steal Kitty and demand a ransom. Kitty is indoor only, chipped, and rarely left alone. On days I do have to work in office, I've been taking him in with me. But yeah, I'm thinking this is one of the weirder catfishing schemes on record. I tried to tell Kitty about his custody dispute, but he just yawned in my face and joined his big brothers for a celebratory afternoon nap. Though he did hack up a hairball on my pillow yesterday, paying someone else to take him is starting to look pretty tempting. Fourth update 5 months later. You all thought it over. So did I, but no. Turns out this story really could get weirder. Recap: years ago I took in an injured stray cat. The cat did not have a collar or chip. A good faith attempt was made to locate possible owners. After owning the cat for several years, I began receiving messages on social media from someone claiming to be the original owner. They demanded I return the cat, and I refused and blocked them. Eventually, they escalated to sending letters to my home on letterhead from a non-existent lawyer's office. The letters demanded I pay hundreds for the privilege of keeping the cat, or they would sue for what exactly was unspecified. At this point, it was clear this was a scam, albeit a bizarre one. Someone on the Bola thread suggested reporting the letters to the local bar association. I ignored the first two, but when they kept arriving, I went ahead and did so. I assume the bar association took some kind of action because the next letter I received was basically the scammer raging, "How dare you?" This was the first letter that contained an actual threat against my safety. So, to cut this already way too long story short, I filed a police report. After some additional letters, my cat now has a no-contact order. Okay, it's in my name, but we all know it's really for the cat. I will say the threats were of the more creative, less actionable sort, but I'm hopeful this will truly put an end to it. This is honestly the single dumbest thing I've ever gone through. My cat continues not to care. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Is anyone else worried that a no-contact order won't be enough to stop all of this? I'm somewhat worried for Op's safety. This dude is seriously dedicated and knows where Op lives. I would still be on edge with a no-contact order because that won't stop crazy. Op's response. Yeah, trust me, I'm mostly making light to mask how thoroughly freaked out I am. Kitty is never left alone and even comes to work with me. My pen pal is clearly not all that stable. Still, I'm choosing to be hopeful because I haven't received anything since the no-contact order happened. This is my suspicion. It's well known we're a crazy cat family. Even though my social media is locked down, the scammer could be a friend of a friend or somehow heard about our reputation for fostering/adopting critters. If anyone is going to fork over cash to keep a cat, it would be me. So the scammer probably saw us as a good target. When the fake lawyer didn't work and the bar association got involved, the scammer got pissed that the scheme failed. Now that the cops are involved, they'll hopefully realize they've lost and it isn't worth it. The alternative is that they never expected to get money out of it and this entire thing was a bizarre prank. In which again they'll hopefully realize they've gone too far. Or the dude is just total nutballs. Up to another commenter. I work in wildlife rehab part-time and as a sales coordinator for a small company. The coordinator work I mostly do from home, but my boss is terrific and doesn't mind the cat coming along when I have to work in office. At the rehab, he hangs out downstairs in the office. It's actually been great for his socialization. When I first rescued him, he could be very reactive. I worked with him and got him to the point I could safely handle him, but he was still very much a one-person cat. At the rehab, he's constantly exposed to people who are experienced with much more aggressive animals. A hissing kitty is downright cute compared to a snarling raccoon. Now he'll snuggle with anyone and even cuddles with the office dog on occasion. So, in a very weird way, this whole thing has been a positive experience for him. I did, at the beginning, think it might be a prank, though I can't think of anyone in my life who would do such a thing. Like, I could maybe imagine a friend sending the very first message. At this point, though, I can't imagine anyone would take it this far and risk getting in trouble for making threats just as a joke. Commenter 2. What could or would the bar do about fake lawyer letterhead? Ops response. I'm not entirely sure. When I spoke to the association, the person I spoke with seemed amused and asked for the letters. They said they would look into it. From the context of the follow-up rant I received, I assume they contacted the scammer. I don't believe they did anything more than perhaps tell him to knock it off. He seemed just angry that I reported him at all. When I filed a police report, I was told the police weren't concerned with the fake letterhead. From what I understand, practicing law without a license is illegal, but just saying you are a lawyer is not. The letters were in a more gray area because they were an attempt to extort money, while perhaps not meeting the legal definition of extortion.